Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Davey?
Here.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Here.
Councilmember Laredo?
Here.
Vice Mayor London? Councilmember McCormick?
Here.
Councilmember Moss?
Here.
Councilmember Segurola?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum.
Okay.
Have us this evening is an invocation by Youth Pastor Tony Gowdy with the Key Biscayne Community Church. Oh, you need a headset?
You need to put the headset on.
I'm good.
You're live.
You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Well, God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for the blessing that it is to call this island our home. And God, we pray for wisdom today from the council, from the manager. We pray that you be glorified. We love you. We thank you. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tony.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, the first item is brief comments by council.
Right. Let me start us off. I've got a few things. First, folks, COVID, we've done a great job in this community of getting vaccinated. We've always been mindful of what's going on, but this Delta variant is apparently a lot more aggressive. It's a lot more transmissible. And my concern is that we have a whole segment of our population that's under 12 years old that is not able to be vaccinated right now. So what I'm asking people to do is wear your masks where you can, when you're indoors in close situations. You don't need to wear them outside. You don't need to wear them when you're exercising. But again, the more responsible we are, and I know it's been a long time, we're all frustrated. We all want to get rid of the masks. But the fact is, this variant is really aggressive. I am afraid we're seeing younger and younger people being admitted to our hospitals. Anecdotally, I'm being told that Baptist Hospital is getting crowded. I'm hearing from other parts of the state where their hospitals are getting crowded. So I would just ask everybody to wear masks when you're going inside, when you can, when you're in situations where you're with a lot of people. Let's be smart. Let's wear the masks. We can get through this. We've gotten through it before. And again, this community has done an incredible job, but I am really afraid for the kids who are going back to school, who are under 12 years old, who can't get vaccinated, that will be susceptible to this disease. Next, the Rickenbacker Causeway. As many of you know, the county is going to put an RFP out for the redesign and redevelopment of the causeway. And our public comments, they will be accepting public comments at a meeting on August 4th. The village will be sending out that information and making it public. I really encourage you all to stay focused on this. It's critical that the county commission hear from our residents and understand just how important this roadway is to us. We need a roadway that is designed to handle future traffic loads, not just the traffic load as it exists now. It needs to not only include recreational, but also thoughts about the vehicular traffic that goes through this community. We need a new Bearcut Bridge. That everybody agrees on that, but we need the county to really take into account the transit from the mainland onto Key Biscayne, not only for Key residents, but also all of the people, the millions of visitors to the county and the state park. And we need to be stakeholders on this. This is our only ingress and egress to our homes, and we need to be participants in the process. So I encourage you all to get involved, participate on August 4th, make your voices heard so they understand that we're watching. And we want them to keep us in mind when they're going forward with their plans. Finally, I want to say something about the Community Foundation. I think most of you have probably heard that the Community Foundation has terminated their relationship with us, their contractual relationship with the Village of Key Biscayne. I'm incredibly disappointed to lose them as a partner. They have been nothing but tremendous throughout my time on the Key Biscayne Council. I've been on this council for almost 11 years now. And since Melissa White took over as executive director, she has done nothing but incredible things to help this community. I don't think people yet realize the economic cost this is to us. They did a lot of administrative work for this village that they didn't charge us for. They did a lot of things for us that were just for the good of the community, because that's the kind of people they are over there at the foundation. I'm really disappointed. The loss of the partnership will increase the burden on our administration. I know the manager and his folks are working to figure out how they're going to handle it, but this is no small thing. And that's it. I just, I really appreciate everything they've done over the years. I want people to understand just what a big loss this is to this community. Next person.
Yeah, this is self-damage of a serious magnitude. And this will diminish our efforts to build and sustain the greatest possible community. And that is a shame.
I agree.
One last, Chad, I need to recuse myself on 10AC and colleagues for the same reason that I did the last time. I have a professional relationship with one of the consultants, so I'll step away.
Do you need any help?
No.
Okay. Sorry. Oh, that's Councilmember Laredo. Councilmember Segurola, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, I have a few comments I want to say about the Community Foundation and everything that's being said in the media and in chats and everything else. I disagree with many of the comments.
Hold on, Councilmember Segurola. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, they can't hear you. Pete, is there any way for us to get this to the people or no? No, sorry. Go ahead, Councilmember Segurola.
Can they hear me or no?
The people in the chambers can't, but the people who are watching at home can. Go ahead. Okay.
Well, basically, I disagree with a lot of the comments you and Councilmember Kaplan just made about the foundation, and I don't think that the public, the residents of Key Biscayne, should be concerned. There's a lot of things that have been said about residents and about myself in particular, and I would like to set the record straight right now. I've stayed kind of quiet about this, but I'll stop staying quiet now. First and foremost, what apparently the foundation has never really grasped is that although they may be a fantastic charity that does a lot of great public works, the moment that they accept public funds and taxpayer funds, that triggers two things. Number one, it triggers the fiduciary duty that every single council member has in order to make sure that the funds are being distributed and spent wisely. Now, whether council members choose to exercise the fiduciary duty is up to them and none of my business. I'm just going to do my part. The second part that it triggers is it's going to trigger public debate, public questions, and public doubt. Now, there is no room for genuflecting in this council chamber. There are no sacred cows. The moment the foundation accepted the money, they opened themselves to question. They seem to never understand that. Now, if the reaction from the foundation is going to be temper tantrums, or the reaction from the foundation is going to be Gene Stern sending out nasty grams like were sent to Betty Sim Conroy and to Tony Campaign, one of the founders of the village, and Tony Campaign, a resident that had the audacity of writing in the Islander his thoughts and opinions about what was being done, then you know what? The foundation should not be in the public forum. Very simple. If they think that answering questions is too tedious, or if they think that they are above that, I'm sorry, they do not deserve to be in the public forum. Now, I am very thankful that the foundation apparently has realized this. I wish them all the luck in the world to go forward and do the great works that they do as a private charity. However, now we have $125,000, which is a ton of money, in order to have the village itself administer all the funds all of the programs, everything that has been done by the foundation to date. I have full faith that our administration is going to do as good, if not better, of a job than the foundation. There should not be any cut in anything. No community program should be done. No one should worry about that. I think we're going to do fantastic. And that is my message to the village. We're going to move forward. We're going to do a great job. Why? Because that is what many other cities do, and that is the course of business of the village government. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public comments?
Yeah.
Councilmember Moss, then Councilmember McCormick, then Councilmember London.
I completely disagree with what Councilmember Segurola just said. They're a huge value. I think that we all understand that you got to turn that down because I can hear an echo when I'm speaking, so it's really distracting. But yeah, it's better now. But I think that they have not charged us a dime for any of the time that they put forward to help us when we needed help. When we had issues with getting the freebie up and running, they were crucial in that. If we didn't have them as part of our partners in that, we wouldn't have freebie moving. It would have taken years to get that up. They do wonderful work. It's a shame that people are politicizing this. We have many vendors who make profit and make money on the time that they put in to administer, and nobody questions it. Yet we're going after our partner who's making no money. Everything is passed through, including the $125,000, which we're still going to have to spend. And now we're going to have to find ways to administer it on top of the $125,000. So we lost a huge value. So, I disagree with what you said. I think we've hit a new low in this community. If we can't even get our community foundation to want to work for us, I think we need to reevaluate our priorities up here, because this is I think a very low and bad time that we're in. So it's very sad to see that this has happened. And, I hope that there's going to be some future changes that will turn more positive.
Councilmember McCormick.
Yeah, I would actually agree with Councilmember Segurola that there is a lack of understanding, but I would say that I think he's the one who's not quite understanding exactly what the relationship is. And it's surprising after so long and with so much information that's been shared. But it is a best practice in government for governments to partner with not-for-profits. The Village of Key Biscayne benefited greatly from the relationship. I'm not going to get involved in who said what about who, and it saddens me to see the way that people are acting in our community. It's not the type of community that I would want to live in. But my concern, and what I really wanted to talk about tonight, is that I see this as a major blow to efficiency and to running a nimble government, both of which have been top priorities for the Village of Key Biscayne since incorporation. And we hear about it all the time. And the idea that we can perform the same level of service for that same dollar amount is unfathomable to me. And if Councilmember Segurola thinks he has a way of doing that, I really hope he spends more time at Village Hall and makes that happen, because that would really be some feat. I would like to ask that the manager prepare for us for the next time we meet the best estimation that he can prepare on how this is going to impact us, both in terms of our budget and programmatically. I can't imagine it isn't going to have a big impact. We've already set the trim and we cannot go up higher. Not that any of us wanted to, but I have real concerns about what this is going to do. And so for me, what I'd like to really make a point of in my brief comments by council is to ask the manager and staff to prepare for us their best estimation of what the impact is going to be for our residents in terms of our budget and also in terms of programming.
Thank you. Vice Mayor London.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. I'm saddened. I completely disagree with Ignacio. I don't think Ignacio has any idea what the cost of our employees is in the village versus the cost of the employees for the foundation, besides the fact that they do a great job. So for those people who are very active, trying to save money, to lower taxes, who at the same token want to get rid of the foundation, you've made a big mistake, because if nothing else, if we as a village do it, rather than subcontract it to somebody else, our costs will probably double, Ignacio. Our 125 will probably become 250. And then you'll say, well, yeah, but we did a better job. I doubt it. They did a great job. They can do a great job. And it behooves me to get the council to whatever we can do to get them back, to see if we can't work together and let them not be affected by all the negative, nasty, untrue comments that people have made about them. As far as their accounting and being, should we say, accountable to the village, they've been very accountable. They've never hesitated to show us anything. They'll be happy to show any bill for anything, and they're not making money on us. If they broke even, they were doing well. It's a great organization, and all we did was really get not we, but the people who are so intent, all the nasties, to get rid of them. You've done a great job. You got rid of them, and now you'll pay in higher taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Laredo, you were the only one who hadn't spoken. Did you want to say anything? Brief comments?
What over the last few weeks, I've been based on inaccurate facts by the board of the foundation or members thereof. I have not been able to determine if it's all approved in language that is unbecoming, I believe, of an organization of the great reputation of the Key Biscayne Community Foundation, much less against an elected official, however you may disagree with him. I decided until now not to respond in the hope that the tempers would cool and mature minds control, and I'm not going to respond today. I am reminded of a phrase that I take very seriously from Pope John Paul II, where he says that all falsehoods wraps itself in a flood of words, but the truth is very brief. I'm going to tell my colleagues briefly a few brief truths. Two, I have always, since I've been in this council for 2 years, been very supportive, almost unconditionally supportive of their projects. Three, I believe in institutions. I believe in institutions, the bedrock of American democracy, and not in personalities or cult of personalities. These attacks on me, I don't take personally. I believe they're attacks against the institution of the village council, duly elected by the people, democratically elected by the people, to protect their interests, and responsibility and duty is to be a trustee. In fact, folks, 30 years ago, we named our council trustees of the citizens concerned and prudent and effective taxpayers' funds. I will continue to carry on that obligation. I thank deeply the foundation for the work that they have done in the past. And I respect moving on separately, but committed to the same principles and serving to the best of our ability the people of Key Biscayne, and come to closure on this matter so we can get back to the real serious business of running this village government efficiently and prudently. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item. Can we turn that down, please, or reconnect the...
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the agenda. Approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
Does anybody have anything they want to add to the Councilmember Segurola?
As 12B3, I believe, the Rickenbacker Causeway. I don't know if that wants, would you prefer to roll that in with the mayor's report or as a separate item? I'm fine either way.
No, 12. Yeah, I think that's right. Apologies. I thought he included that on the item, but yeah.
No, he has it here. It's I.
It's in
I.
Are you?
Yeah,
you
right.
want
There it is.
You want to speak to
It's
something
already on the agenda.
different?
Yeah, we're going to discuss.
Well, I want to discuss another option aside from the manager's recommendations.
Okay. Well, I'll discuss all that at the time.
Okay.
With the manager's report?
Yes.
Thank
We'll leave
you.
that in the manager's report. Anybody else? Pete, can you fix this, please? We got an echo out here because of the laptop at the podium.
Move the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can we be heard?
You know,
Motion carries.
You can bring your computer.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is public comments.
Okay, the first speaker again. Pete, you want to give the
Mayor, may I ask you a question just for Pete and you?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, when because I know when Secretary was speaking, you said that he couldn't be heard. Can you hear me and the public?
I can hear you. Yes, the public can hear you. The problem is right now that you were delayed. There were some delays and some hiccups in your connection. But I'll let you.
Where now we can be heard.
You can. I can hear you now. Oh, he's asking. No, right now the people in the chamber cannot hear you, but everybody who's listening in at home can hear you. Yeah, we haven't. We thought we were going to be beyond this.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. Sorry, no worries. All right, Pete, can you give the explanation to the folks at home?
Yes, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you watching us on Channel 77 on Comcast, on Channel 99 on AT&T, or streaming us live via our website, if you wish to make a public comment, please dial the following phone number: 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you that are currently in the meeting and wish to speak, please dial *9 on your telephones or raise your hand via the app.
Okay. We've got some people in the chambers who wish to speak. The first speaker is Nina Wallen. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. It'll help. Yes. Yeah, it'll help everybody at home hear you. Can you hear us? Miss Wallen, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear her. Perfect. All right, go ahead.
Okay. My name's Nina Wallen, 270 Hampton Lane, right here from Key Biscayne. I'm a concerned parent along with 372 other Key Biscayne families that have petitioned the village government and the parks director to fully reopen the community center and for complete access to the residents and members during regular operating hours and without restrictions. Currently, the community center remains closed to our children during the week from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday, closed all day. Our numerous attempts to work with the village manager resulted in an insulting proposal by him to work with us to open the facilities during a 1-hour slot. Which we obviously declined because as residents and taxpayers, we are entitled to access our community center. However, it is clear from our communications with the village manager and the parks director that they have decided to deny our right to access this important facility, seemingly to give priority to their summer camp, which hosts roughly 40 children. Compared to the 372 families that want to be in there. We're catering to 40 children. That's it. I have walked in the community center during the days, during the week at different times. I am submitting to the clerk timestamp photos of the community center rooms locked with lights off or unlocked doors, proving that the facilities are not being used by the campers throughout the majority of the time that the facilities have been kept closed to the rest of the community. I encourage those parents at home to request them from the village clerk via public records request. This is our last attempt at pleading to the village government to do what is right and open up the KBCC, removing these restricted hours. We hope that you do what's right. And I do want to, every kid is here missing their summer and should have access to that. And you have kept it closed to them during the week, all week long, during the hot summer hours. This is insulting at this point. Please do right for the 372 families that are wanting their kids and are okay with their kids going into that facility. And if you want to complain about, oh, you can't find somebody to work with, you might want to go through and get the funds for the 372 families that are willing to pay their monthly dues, so that way they can get their kids back in there. That might help bring in some funds, maybe. Just might be an idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Alejandro Serrano.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Alejandro Serrano. I live in 784 Ridgewood Road. I am not a lobbyist. I request that my comments be made a part of the record and of the meeting minutes. I am here to demand, as the law requires you to do, that the village government preserve all documentation in its possession, custody, and control in relation to all transactions and communications between village staff, appointed or elected officials, and any employee, partner, board member, or chair of the Key Biscayne Community Foundation and the law firm that represents the Key Biscayne Community Foundation, Stearns, Weaver, Miller, etc. These documents must be made available in hard copies and electronic format via public records request per Florida statute. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Fausto Gomez.
Good evening. If I can just take a moment to...
Absolutely.
Clean up. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, and Mr. Manager. I come before you this evening as an active and concerned...
Mr. Gomez, your address, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
for the
sorry.
record.
765 Crandon Boulevard, Penthouse 10, Key Biscayne, Florida, 33149.
Thank you.
Sure. As I said, I come before you this evening as an active and concerned resident of Key Biscayne with regards to the proposal for a public-private partnership on the Rickenbacker Causeway and the response of the village of Key Biscayne to it. As we all know, an unsolicited proposal was submitted to Miami-Dade County earlier this year, whose contents, as per law, have remained confidential. And that proposal resulted in the mayor and county commission accepting it and authorizing the issuance of an RFP for the privatization of the Rickenbacker. Little advance or no notice was provided to the village of Key Biscayne, and the mayor and manager appeared before the county commission and have had individual conversations with county leadership, both elected and appointed. As a citizen of Key Biscayne, I thank them, but unfortunately their efforts are not enough. What is missing is the involvement of the residents of Key Biscayne, their opinions and concerns, and a muscular, let me repeat, muscular presence to what could be an existential threat to our daily lives. Let me make clear that my remarks are not in any way to opine on the merits of the unsolicited proposal from Bernard Siskovich, or if community scuttlebutt is to be believed, other two proposals that are supposedly being prepared. And also let me disclose publicly that I consider Bernard Siskovich a friend, and he is an extremely talented and visionary professional, and that I represented him and his firm on a particular project which did not involve the Z plan. In fact, Bernard did not discuss the plan with me in detail. I only saw the public presentation that I assume all of you have seen, since I'm a resident of Key Biscayne and he did not know how I would react to it. Mr. Mayor, as you know, at the beginning of your term, Servando Parapar and I met with you and suggested that you secure professional support to craft a Key Biscayne response to what was understood to be continued efforts for Rickenbacker privatization. I remember you bringing the matter up to council and it being rejected by council. As you all may know, Servando is a long-term resident of Key Biscayne, formerly served as executive director of the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, and prior to that was in a senior position at the Florida Department of Transportation. And my bona fides in this area are due to my long and successful representation of MDX, Miami-Dade County on transportation matters, and innumerable transportation-related private concerns. We both know what we are talking about. The past 3 mayors of Miami-Dade have sought to privatize the Rickenbacker Causeway. Mayor Carlos Alvarez offered to sell it to MDX. Mayor Carlos Jimenez was working with 2 firms.
I need you to wrap up as soon as possible.
Okay.
Thanks.
Who were doing a proposal for the P3 for the Rickenbacker. Those 2 firms were also involved in the tragedy at the FIU Bridge, and therefore the proposal died. And now Mayor Levine Calba has affixed her signature to memorandum. So I have a couple of questions, and perhaps you can help answer them. So why have 3 county administrations sought to divest themselves of the road?
Fausto, I got to cut you off.
I'd make a motion to allow Fausto more additional time, another 3 minutes. This is very important for the village, and this goes directly into what I was going to bring up later on in the meeting.
Okay. Is there a second for this motion? I'm not.
I'll second it, Mayor, but I think in light of what happened and the misinformation when Mr. London left the meeting, the famous meeting, we ought to stick to the 3 minutes because it's
right.
Then people can have.
I think. Well,
in this case, I will, but I know it's a tough job. That's why I don't want.
I think.
Job.
Can you?
But I'll second it for not out of the courtesy.
All right.
All those in favor?
Can you finish it? Can you finish it in 1 minute?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me just say this.
All those in favor?
Hold on. Wait, hold on. Chad, you had something to say about this?
I was just going to say there was a motion in the second. So if the maker of the motion wants to withdraw.
Friendly amendment
to 1 minute.
Fausto, how much time do you think you need?
I'd say 2 minutes. I'll be through.
Can we make it 2?
It's fine. 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So my question is.
All those in favor?
Aye. We're wasting time. Aye. Go ahead.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
So 3 county administrations have sought to divest themselves of the road, and I question why. As I have said in the past and will say here again, the Rickenbacker is a financial burden to Miami-Dade County. It shows an annual profit, but does not fully account for expenses relating to the Bearcut Bridge and to repair the Powell and West Bridges, plus make the necessary improvements for sustainability, reconfiguring for multimodal purposes, and the annual operations and maintenance obligations. The county wants to remove it from its books. I also have some facts about the bridges. And factually, the Powell Bridge, according to a June 2018 report, says scour critical bridge foundations determined to be unstable. And a July 27 report for Bearcut Bridge says replacement of bridge or other structures because of substandard load carrying capacity. Miami-Dade cannot adequately design, build, operate, and maintain the Rickenbacker, and they know it. The last time there was a P3 proposal, which was the Port Tunnel, they gave that responsibility to FDOT, not Miami-Dade. And yet we as Key Biscayners are trusting Miami-Dade County with a driveway to our homes and appear to only be seeking a seat at the table. Other than these short 3 minutes, the council has not afforded an opportunity for residents to express their views on the Rickenbacker. It has not called for a community-wide meeting or at least placed an item on the council agenda as a public hearing. I have spoken to many of my neighbors and they are unaware of the Rickenbacker discussions. And because of past council actions, I'm refusing to accommodate the mayor with regards to getting professional assistance in order to craft a response. There is no prepared and cogent response to the Rickenbacker conundrum. So let me suggest 3 points on an action agenda. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your comments informing the residents of Key Biscayne about what is being proposed for Rickenbacker. Number 2, thank you for urging their participation at the meeting in early August that Miami-Dade is hosting. I would say that as a community, we need to acknowledge that the Rickenbacker is a crucial piece of multimodal transportation. The county staff is park staff that's handling this project, not transportation staff.
Fausto, I got to cut you off.
Okay.
Thank you.
I want to submit my comments in writing for the record if I can.
Absolutely.
Mayor, can you ask him to stay if we're going to discuss this later?
He's more than welcome to stay. I don't prevent people from staying. Next is Louisa Conway.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Council, and welcome, Manager.
Louisa, you have to state your name and address.
Oh, sorry. Louisa Conway, 151 Crandon Boulevard, Key Biscayne. Good evening, Council. Civic engagement is the bedrock of exchange between the Council and the people. The fact that some residents and journalists request the village to produce public records is their protected right. Why would any village council member, employee, or service provider describe the public's right to make the request as harassment, or to say these requests burden the clerk's office? Isn't your role to safeguard the protected rights of all citizens, of all residents? I, for one, see a glaring issue that has yet to be addressed. Producing financial reports that allows us all to review the financial transactions of this village in a comprehensive manner. What are the village's financial management policies? This has been an ongoing management problem for the village. When will village management define the guidelines and requirements of how vendors, service providers, and community groups are reimbursed or paid? For example, community programming, how does the village of Key Biscayne define community programming? What are the criteria and requirements to access public funding? And more importantly, what is the public purpose being fulfilled to satisfy the expenditure? For years, groups come before council, ask for funding, and neither management nor council, to my knowledge, has ever ascertained if these expenditures are in compliance with Article 7, Section 10 of the Florida statutes. If there is one lesson to be learned from the village's 6 years of engagement with the KBCF, is that it is incumbent upon this body to set forth the stipulations for expenditures, not the vendor, the consultant, or the service provider. In sum, this is why residents such as myself continue to advocate for fiscal transparency and respect for civic engagement. And to this, I turn to our dear Mayor. Mayor Davey, you have publicly described some of your constituents, specifically using language and labels that are polarizing and divisive. Sir, we are not internet trolls and demonizers, caves, or malignant adversaries hiding in the shadows. I am standing in the light of this chamber, not hiding under a rock, put my money behind my principles of fiscal and government transparency, and ran for public office. Mayor, you are an elected public servant to all 13,000 residents. You chose to be part of this body. You have a greater responsibility to be more mindful of your own words and actions than your constituents. I kindly ask that you cease demonizing residents, former and current council members, and disrespecting the people's dais. Let's move forward into the sunshine. Nope, let's move forward into the sunshine. Thank you. And you do not have to be rude. You gave somebody else time.
On a motion. I didn't make the friendly amendment. I didn't make the friendly amendment. We're done discussing this. Thank you.
Like the criticism.
Next.
We pay your taxes. We pay your salaries for the village. For their yacht club.
Next person, please. That's it. Enough, guys. Yeah, somebody has to make a motion. No motion. Thank you. Let's continue. Pete, anybody signed up?
Mr. Mayor, I have no one signed up to speak.
Okay. Next item.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the consent agenda.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Hold it.
Yes.
On the consent agenda?
Yeah, just in the minutes, I just want to get the message out. I mean, the 2 minutes have to do with the workshop of zoning that Moss is heading.
Hold on.
Which date?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and yeah, I just want to whoever is listening that I think this committee particularly is doing an extraordinary job outreaching. So I want to get on the record so people don't misunderstand me that there will be no excuse come time of decision, people always show up out of the holes and come up with the 11th and a half hour recommendations. I think the transparency and outreach of this has been extraordinary, and we'll see another issue later today. People need to know that they got to follow the rules and play by the rules, and we're breaking our backs, and this committee particularly, to get the feedback. And so don't come back, because I'll be on your face saying you didn't get anything.
Councilmember Laredo, I'm sorry, you're asking for a change?
No, he wasn't. He was just he was just making a statement on the consent agenda. Fine.
Okay.
Let's move on. It's noted. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution, a capital authorizing resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, authorizing the village manager to issue a work order to SFM Services, Inc. for the village's Crandon Boulevard Landscape and Irrigation Improvements Project in an amount not to exceed $99,355 and providing for an effective date.
Move. Second. Mr. Manager?
Second, I'm sorry.
It's been seconded.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager, do you want to speak to this?
Let Director Alziman speak on this.
Mayor, Council.
I see Ed.
We finished. Can you hear me? Okay. We finished the median improvements in Crandon Boulevard landscape and irrigation improvements, and this work order will authorize us to wrap up the rest of the work on east and west side of Crandon, as well as landscaping on Harbor Drive. And then there will be subsequent work order in coming months to do rest of the island, but this will be the phase 2 of Crandon and phase 1 of Harbor Drive. Landscape and irrigation improvements.
I have a question.
I think Vice Mayor London, you had a question, and then Councilmember.
Question for Chad. Chad, would I have a conflict in voting on this since my wife is involved in the beautification board?
No.
There is no more beautification board. That was closed.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Moss?
Jake, how is SFM doing? I mean, do you feel like they're doing a pretty good job so far?
We had some hiccups on the way.
Okay.
They've been better, but they're under constant supervision, and we have monthly discussion with their ownership. It's been getting better, but it could be better.
So you see improvement. Do you think that a little bit more time to see if they can meet the expectations that you're looking for would be fair to say?
Yes, by end of the summer, and then we'll do a full evaluation, and then we'll bring a report before the council.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Comment? Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, confirming the village's ability to fund and support the permitting, design, construction, and monitoring of the village's beach renourishment project, providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. This resolution is something that we typically do, I think, every year. It's an application for beach management funding to basically support monitoring that needs to be undertaken and or design of future beach nourishment projects. Some years we get funding, some years we don't. This year, the state has essentially ranked us in a position to access $54,876. As part of the application, there's a match requirement. So this is essentially a resolution indicating that the village is willing to provide its match in order to access the funds from the state for beach management.
Questions from council?
Roland, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilmember McCormick, and then I didn't see somebody.
Sorry. Dr. Samimi, this monitoring, just for the benefit of people watching and who are wondering how their tax dollars are being spent, is required.
Yes, ma'am.
Wrong. It is a requirement for us to have been able to use state dollars for the beach haul the truck haul that we did, and to prepare for the next one. And if we do not spend this money and do this monitoring the way that they require, we will be ineligible for those funds. Yes,
that's correct. And it's a permit. It's also a permit requirement that we must monitor. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving the continuing professional services agreement with various consultants for architectural and engineering services pursuant to request for qualifications number 2021-08, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Moved.
Second.
I'll be stepping out.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Let's give Councilmember Kaplan a minute to remove himself. Okay. Go ahead.
Again, Mayor and Council, on May 18, the Council passed Resolution 2021-26, authorizing village manager to negotiate an executive agreement with consultants that be selected and shortlisted. Subsequent to the meeting, staff negotiated hourly rates for each consultant on a number of different titles. And tonight we bring this forward before the council for approval. And across the board, we negotiate the same rates for each consultant, and all these rates are either equal or below 78th percentile of Florida Department of Transportation rates. So I could confidently say that these are very good rates. And one other thing I'd like to note, that there is no work guarantee. This is in case in the future we need any work. We can tap into this contract to use consultants. But again, there is no work guaranteed for anybody, just merely establishing hourly rates for future services.
Okay.
I didn't hear the last thing you said because I was going to ask how much money is involved here.
Yeah. Jay, could you repeat?
Yes. Councilman Loretta, this is just to establish hourly rate for the future in case if you need any professional services. There is no work guaranteed.
Got it. Thank you.
No money is committed specifically for this.
And Jake, I'd like to ask a quick question just for clarification. I did talk to the manager earlier about this. It says that you recommend that we select the highest ranked consultants. That means multiple consultants in each category, correct? We're looking at 3 at the most.
Correct.
And if there's some that had less, it will have less, right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that's clarified. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Frank, you can come back.
Yes, sir. Thank you. He's eating all the food.
Yeah, I'm glad Frank did not pull it at London.
All right, let's move on.
I went to a restaurant.
Yeah. All right, Madam Clerk.
The next item for Mr. Mayor, members of council, this title is updated, so I need to read the updated title to you. A resolution of the Mayor and Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving memorandums of understanding between the City of Miami and the Village's Fire Rescue Department and Police Department to cooperate and participate in the Securing the City's program, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Second.
Thank you.
Who's going to speak to this one, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I'm standing by if there are any questions.
Okay. Vice Mayor London.
Steve, is there any type of financial implications to the village from this agreement going forward?
There is currently at this point no financial requirement unless we choose to purchase any equipment through this agreement. and that'll be another choice for a different time. The training that we do will be done in conjunction with the city of Miami and therefore paid by them. And our folks will just attend that training.
So my question, again, your answer is that this does not obligate us to spend any additional money. Is that correct?
No, sir, it does not. Only if we choose to buy equipment off of this contract.
Can we save money because of this agreement?
Yes, we do. In fact, they get a much better rate as a result of it, and it's in a federal program that allows a discounted rate.
Thank you.
Anybody else with comments, questions?
Are there any grants out there for anything that would help us buy equipment if we ever needed it? Because it seems like this is kind of a federal security issue.
Yeah, this isn't in of itself, not necessarily a grant, but this is a program which is similar to what offers a grant opportunity. So
by participating, it sets us up. Okay.
Yeah, you get that. You get those benefits.
Anybody else?
Seems to me as a byproduct, it's never a bad thing to have a relationship with the city of Miami.
Oh, that's right. And potentially could save us money. Go ahead.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is public comments.
Okay. Pete, can you read the instructions one more time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you watching us on Channel 77 on Comcast, on Channel 99 on UVerse, or streaming us live via our website, and you wish to comment on any topic, please dial the following phone number, 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you currently in the meeting and wishing to speak, either dial *9 on your telephones or simply raise your hand via the Zoom app.
All right, I've got one speaker, Armando Ciappelli.
I have my clock here so that I don't go over the 3 minutes.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Armando Ciappelli. I'm a resident of Key Biscayne now for 21 years.
State your address, please.
791 Grandin Boulevard, apartment 905. And I arrived in Miami in 1960 as a destitute 14-year-old refugee, a legitimate refugee, not the open borders kind that we get today. The invaders. I came here for freedom. I was poor in Cuba. I wasn't a yacht club member. I earned my education thanks to the liberty this country afforded me. That liberty is being taken away now. I built a company from scratch to 1,100 employees, and we successfully trained every air traffic controller in the United States for 25 years. Whenever you fly, any of you, Ms. McCormick, you're hiding back there. When you get on an airplane, you laugh at me, but when I'm here, you don't look me in the eye because you know you can't. Go ahead, mock me. Put a cross on my face like you guys did during the campaign. I'm not afraid of saying things here because you can't touch me. And what I'm saying here is truth. So I built this company, and in 2008, the deep state in Washington, D.C. of Raytheon Corporation, in bed with the Carlyle Group, in bed with the Republican Party, yes, still in office, had the audacity of standing in front of the Capitol talking about liberty today, took a bribe from Raytheon to destroy my company. And boy, they did a number on it. But I survived to live another day and to work another day, and they have not been able to scratch the surface of my lifestyle because I fight back. I'm here to tell you, I am here to stand for freedom in this city, in this country, in this county, in this state. You will not intimidate me. No one will intimidate me, and I'd rather be one of the victims of the FBI at 4 o'clock in the morning and be incarcerated illegally, like they're keeping the people from January 6th in jails incommunicado in Washington, D.C. for 6 months now. I don't know how many months. I'd rather be one of them. I'd rather join them than succumb to the abuse and the silencing and the disrespect, Mr. Kaplan, if you don't mind, from you, the people that I may not pay, but I certainly pay the taxes that you spend in this city willy-nilly on lunches at the yacht club.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Pete, do we have anybody signed up?
Mr. Mayor, I have no one signed up to speak.
Okay, let's move on.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is reports and recommendations. Village manager, manager's ongoing project update.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. First thing I'd like to do is I've got the pleasure to introduce my new chief of staff, Jocelyn Musavu, and she's sitting here to my right. So I welcome her to the village of Key Biscayne.
Welcome.
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 Welcome. Welcome.
And I'm looking forward to it. Some good work.
We promise we'll be better than the city of Miami.
That's not a high bar there, council member.
All right. This is all live.
Anyway, I'd like to give you, before I go into our identified updates, what I'd first like to do is just give you a quick update on the current status of the search for our new police chief. At this point, we currently have approximately 15 candidates that we are reviewing. The announcement closes on the 8th of August. We anticipate at the rate that we are going in the context that we have made that we will have somewhere between 25 and 30 legitimate candidates. Once we have those resumes in, we will go through a review panel. That review panel will reduce the numbers down to qualified candidates, which we will then interview and move through the process with my goal to hopefully have a new police chief on board in September. So process is going well. We're getting great candidates, and we will keep you up to date as time goes on. If I have no questions on that, we'll go ahead and start with the first topic, which is 530 Crandon.
Go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to report that the contract has been negotiated and executed. The kickoff meeting's been conducted. We received the contractor's bond today, and we are currently working with FP&L, as you read in the report, and DERM to address the outstanding issues that we have. We're awaiting a project timeline and a mobilization date from the contractor that we should have shortly and be able to report to you. But that's the status of the park going forward.
Good. Any thoughts on when you might get it?
Hopefully soon. What we're trying to do now is it looks like we're going to have to take a substantial amount of soil out of the park as part of our plan with DERM. The manager and the chief of staff have been putting me in touch with people to help us expedite this process to get the approval for the no further action with conditions. And then we think we can combine that work with the contractor's work, which already excluded excavation. We were happy to hear during our kickoff meeting that the contractor is doing very similar work in another municipality where they are removing soil from a contaminated site. So they have experience in doing this, and I think that will be to our benefit going forward.
What I'd like to also add to that, Mr. Mayor, is that I want to see movement. I want to see it relatively quickly. So I asked the contractor during our kickoff meeting that even though our contract timeline is 180 days, there are some additional permitting things that must occur in advance. I've asked them to come back, add those days into those 180 days. If we accept that timeline, I'd like to give an NTP immediately so we can start to begin to see work. They can start to stage equipment and start to buy materials so we can get movement on the project.
Will we be receiving a Gantt chart of their schedule at all?
We'll have an entire timeline of the project.
Okay.
Whether it's a Gantt chart or Microsoft project, we'll get a project timeline.
Okay. Ed, your question?
Yeah, Steve, in the future, there's a possibility that might be raising streets. The soil, which might not be good for anything else, might be good for raising streets. In that case, does it make any sense to soil bank this now rather than buying soil in the future, or fill, I should say?
The soil that Todd has mentioned that we need to remove is actually contaminated soil. Since it's a former gas station, there are some areas that are contaminated that we must remove. There will be a number of excavation areas in the project. However, most of the soil will actually be reused and put back into the existing project. I don't think there'll be a net loss or that much of a net gain of soil.
You say it's going to be removed and then it's going to be put back in. I don't understand that.
Just the configuration of the actual park. In some areas, the area is lower than it should be right now. It's where water is pooling. So we have to make some adjustments in terms of the gradients. And also the shape of the park is a little bit different than the current configuration of the terrain.
So we will not have to basically truck soil off the key.
No intention at this point. Obviously, we need to see in their cut and fill diagram to better understand exactly what they need to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember McCormick.
Sorry, Steve, that just confused me a little bit. So you will be trucking the contaminated soil though, right?
Yes, of course.
We're just talking about the whatever else is getting moved around the site. And you don't think that will we be trucking in also or no?
At this point, they have identified no need to bring any soil in. It's basically moving the soil around the existing location.
Thank you.
It really depends, though, at the end on what we determine is how much of the soil is contaminated. At this point, what we understand, it's not much more than about 50 cubic yards.
Ed, you had another question?
If you're only talking 50 cubic yards, we're talking about nothing, right. No truckloads almost. If that's what you're talking. Total, Steve? The total amount we're trucking out is 50 yards or less?
Contaminated. That's the approximate amount of contaminated soil.
Approximately.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
It's not worth discussing.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Todd. Next item.
Now, next up is the naming contest for the new Crandon Park.
Can't hear you.
The naming of the park.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Peter's going to help pull this up for me. Hopefully. Don't go far. On May 28th to June 10th, we ran a contest throughout the community to name the park. We were really excited about how many people responded. We got 100 and can you hear me? Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we can hear you.
Sorry, I was scrolling. We got 163 entries. We have judged it internally and chosen our top 15 or so. And the next steps on this were just to have, I guess, a larger conversation to decide what the name will be. So once we're ready to kick this off and inaugurate it, we'll have a good name as well. We have some fun names here, some that really give us a sense of place and creativity. So hopefully we pick a good one.
Are we to pick it today?
So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, we can open up the discussion for the council. If you all think any of these jump out.
I'll throw something out there if you want. At least with what my somebody wants to talk.
Councilmember Laredo, did you want to make a comment, Councilmember Laredo, and then Councilmember Moss?
No, if you want to go ahead and start to decide so we can move forward, and stop calling it.
I'd like to make a comment too.
And to be honest with you, I don't really like. Someone with his language issues, Vizcaíno and Vizcayo and Crandon. I be honest with you, I don't like any of them, notwithstanding the number of people who call, and certainly not after developers. But I had suggested at another meeting before we went this way that Sunrise would be a good name because that's the street right down the corner, and it is a beautiful sunrise view. So we can have kind of nature and significant things The rest of them are, well, I guess the only one that comes close is Crandon Plaza. But then we have a plaza there, which is, of course, we call it something else. The plaza is not a park.
Yeah.
Councilmember Moss and then Councilmember Segurola.
Yeah, I reviewed them all. I want to thank everybody for throwing in a name. None of them really stood out to me, except that I think two, and I'll tell you the reasoning by the two. One of them is the last one, Civic Center Park, which is probably not really the most beautiful one out of them all, but it does follow a continuity of what we have: Lake Park, Beach Park. Village Green is a little bit different, but we do tend to name things, by location, as Civic Center Park does fall in there. But the one that I thought jumped out was Island Paradise Park. However, I would prefer dropping off the island and just call it Paradise Park. I think it sounds good. It's just Paradise Park. It has something to do with Key Biscayne, which we're Island Paradise. I don't think we need to say island. I think we can just call it Paradise Park. Those would be the only two. The other ones really didn't resonate with me. So I would say that would be my comment on looking at those names.
Councilmember Segurola and then Councilmember McCormick.
I appreciate the work that went into this, but none of them, I'm not really crazy about any of them. My suggestion would be either we go with a new list, or in the past I've heard kicked around Incorporation Park, or we have the Village Green. Maybe this could be called the Village Park. I don't know if that's confusing or not, but I can't say I'm really crazy about any of these on this list.
Councilmember McCormick and then Councilmember Kaplan. And I can't see Ed. I'm assuming Ed has an opinion on this. He does. He's waving his hand. Now I can see him. So Ed, you're at the bottom of the list.
So I also would like to thank everyone who participated in this contest. I think it's been a really crazy time, and I love the idea of people taking the time and really and putting something together and trying to name this park. I am inclined to agree that nothing really got me super jazzed. I think also the ranking, I love that the staff was excited about it, and I love Jessica's smile when she came up to talk about it. It's nice to see them being happy about doing things in the community. I don't know that if I were ranking, I would have put as much weight on the creativity and originality, especially because traditionally the names of our parks are anything but creative or original, right? We have the Hill Park, the Beach Park, the Lake Park, Harbor Park, Hampton Park. Maybe the Village Green is the most out there. So on this list, if I were to re-rank for myself, the three that jumped out for me actually interestingly overlap with Brett and Councilmember Laredo. I liked Island Paradise Park. I agree with Brett that dropping the island and being alliterative with Paradise Park is really very nice. And I imagine you would feel very much in paradise when you see those sunrise that Councilmember Laredo was talking about. I also liked Crandon Plaza, but as Councilmember Laredo mentioned, having a plaza directly across the street is maybe confusing. And then lastly, Civic Center Park, actually, I thought made the most sense in keeping with some of the traditions of the other ways that we name our parks. So those were my thoughts.
Councilmember Kaplan, then Vice Mayor London.
It is wonderful when people contribute. This is a nice success story. Let's remember that. That's a good thing. I'm a little cold about the results too. There's a danger, I think, that we will think too much about this. I feel like Councilmember Laredo's original suggestion struck me as probably not capable of being improved upon. Sunrise Park made a lot of sense because of the location and because of the image of the sunrise looking east as it does. I can't think of a better one. So I like that.
Okay. Vice Mayor, hold on. It's Galen, but everybody gets their piece. Vice Mayor?
I agree with Luis and Frank. I don't like any of these names, and I think Luis hit the best suggestion, and I'm 100% behind Sunrise Park.
Okay. My only concern with Sunrise Park was that it's on Galen, but I'm not I was thinking Founders Park was
picky.
but so I mean, let's take a vote. We have.
I move Sunrise Parks.
Fair enough.
Second.
Okay. Let's.
I just add one other thing. There has been talk about and I have not formed opinion one way or the other, but there's talk about the property on Sunrise Drive and the possible need for that to serve a double duty as part of the stormwater plan and public open space. Is there a potential for confusion down the road if we have public space on Sunrise Drive and a park around the corner bearing the name Sunrise Park?
It's a good observation.
Still more on the Paradise Park side.
Okay, so there is a motion's on the floor to name it Sunrise Park. It's been seconded.
Mayor, if I could,
please.
Since this is just in the manager's report, and I think it's appropriate, if this motion were to approve, I think we would bring a resolution so it's actually formally in the record what the naming of this park would be.
Well, okay.
Well, let's take a vote on what we want.
Counselor, why don't we just take the action and then you fix it later?
That's the way you wind up in trouble. I hear what you're saying. But,
I know we just spent so much time.
I'm fine with that. I was just putting that on the record.
All right, fair enough. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to name it Sunrise. It's been seconded by the vice mayor. Understanding, I mean, I have some concerns about the name, but let's. I mean,
if that park came about, Garden District Park or something like that is an alternative.
But you don't like Paradise Park?
I like Sunrise.
Something part of us.
I like Sunrise better.
Now you've offended Brett. You see what you've done here?
Well, it's just it's on the emblem,
I like Sunrise better. Paradise Park is good. I
like
respect
both
your aesthetic sense.
No, that's fine. No,
I'm inclined to go with Paradise Park for the alliteration.
Wait, you got to put your unmute yourself. There's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Let's vote on the motion. Let's do a roll call. This is a big deal.
Councilmember Segurola.
This is for Sunrise Park.
Yes.
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 Mayor Davey.
I'm going to say no.
Councilmember Kaplan.
I'll get behind Paradise Park.
So you say yes or no?
No.
To Sunrise, no.
Councilmember Laredo.
Yes.
Vice Mayor London.
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick.
You were muted.
I'm sorry, Louise, but I'm a no.
Yeah.
All right.
Councilmember Moss.
I'm a no.
Motion fails.
I move for a Paradise Park.
I second it.
Okay,
Discussion.
Let's go. Anybody have any issues about Paradise Park? Anybody have concerns about Paradise Park?
I'm going to make one last pitch for Civic Center Park, only because I think it is. I don't have a problem with Paradise Park, and I am always a sucker for alliteration, but I like the idea of Civic Center Park sticks back to the idea that we were talking about building in historical elements. And it seems to make sense to me. And also, I think it's a nice educational tool of letting people know what this part of the community is, that this is the Civic Center. So I want to throw that out there before you guys cast your votes.
I think that's
A or nay for Paradise Park.
As to historical continuity, the
Right.
great thing about this is that it's the logo of our community.
Okay.
That is true.
All right. So the vote, there is a motion on the floor.
For Paradise Park.
I'm voting no.
Mayor Davey? No.
No.
Councilmember Kaplan?
No.
Councilmember Laredo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor London?
No.
Councilmember McCormick?
No.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola?
No.
Motion fails.
Move Civic Center Park.
Second.
How about
What
Civic
did you call it? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
He said Civic Center Park. We need a second.
Second.
Councilman Kaplan,
Yes, sir.
in the span of a minute, you
froze.
I'm sensing
We're
a
going
way,
to three different.
yeah, I'm sensing a way to.
I think it's civic center is so cold. It is so bureaucratic. It entails a building. It entails bricks and mortar. It has no sunshine or sunrise, and Paradise have not only historical continuity, our whole environment. Its civic center is like a government center. I mean, of all the names, I just want to make a decision, but I can't believe that would be the best we can do. Civic center.
Is there a second?
With all the beauty that we have.
Yeah, Brett seconded it.
Oh, Brett seconded it. Okay. Anybody else? All right, let's call the vote.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo?
No.
Vice Mayor London?
No.
Councilmember McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
No.
Councilmember Segurola?
No.
Mayor Davey?
I'm going to say no again.
Motion
All right.
fails.
All right.
All right, I'll
You were on the
reintroduce.
prevailing side. Do you want to call it back?
I'll reintroduce Sunrise Park. Move.
Second.
I don't love it, but
I second Sunrise.
yeah, we heard. We've got the vote. Anybody else want to
sorry.
make a comment? Anybody got a comment about Sunrise Park? All right.
I think we should get some new names, a new list.
That's what I.
Call the question, Mike. You got a motion.
I said, call the question.
Councilmember Laredo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor London?
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick?
No.
Councilmember Moss?
No.
Councilmember Segurola?
No.
Mayor Davey?
No.
Make a
Councilmember
motion.
Kaplan?
Wait. I hold on. I want to make the I haven't made a motion on her name, but
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to make a motion for
Motion fails.
Founders Park.
Ooh.
Okay. All right.
You can't even get a second.
Then I'm going to go with.
Look, I'm one of the founders.
Let's go with Councilmember Segarola's. There's no second for Founders. I was just trying to get us out of here, but I'm going to move that we throw it back out there and get more names.
Mr. Mayor, the worst, with all due respect,
okay,
with the worst that we can do for our image is to postpone anymore. We did this with other parks. I mean, it's a simple area. People the other times they were going to surveys. We did something with the schools. We spent 8 months or something to name the park and wind up winning after the street is on. Let's just decide, because not deciding which is the only legal obligation we have as elected official. It's getting a little bit ridiculous. I would move Paradise Park again.
I made a motion respectfully. I've made a
I'm
motion.
sorry.
That's
You
okay.
made a motion to go back to
go back to the drawing board. Do I
Is
have
there a second for that motion?
I won't second that. I'll second Councilmember.
Well, hold on.
Laredo's
I second that motion.
Which motion are we seconding?
I'm seconding
out
the
for
motion
more
to go back to the drawing board.
Okay.
Call the vote.
Councilmember McCormick?
No.
Councilmember Moss?
No.
Councilmember Segurola?
Yes.
Mayor Davey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
No.
Councilmember Laredo?
No.
Vice Mayor London?
Yes.
Motion fails.
All
I
right.
move Paradise Park.
Second.
Who second? Kaplan? Thank you. Councilmember.
By the way, Paradise Park has two great elements. One is that it's consistent with our logo and how we refer to our unit. It's a beautiful say. And second of all, it respects the input we got from the community. So in a way, it's we drop the
Agreed. Okay. Let's.
Councilmember Moss?
the word island.
Yes.
So this is probably the best.
Councilmember Segurola?
No.
Mayor Davey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor London?
No.
Councilmember McCormick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Fine. All right.
Hardest
Thank
decision
you very
tonight.
much.
All right, so
I was going to invite you guys for sunrise drinks, but no longer.
All right.
Good choice, Brett. Good choice.
Okay. Paradise Park.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
All right, Mr. Mayor, after that exciting rundown of our park names, we got to leave Jessica up there to give you all a demonstration of our new website, which we intend to launch on August 2nd.
We're sharing? Okay. As you can imagine, we're very excited about this. This has been an ongoing project for a couple administrations now, and we're finally ready to launch. Like any website, it's a living and breathing document that's going to be part of our branding and our new look. A few points that I really want to highlight are on the homepage. One big one here is up top, you'll see a orange bar, and that goes away. I can click it away. But it's an alert bar. So if we have a hurricane, COVID, hopefully not COVID again, but whatever the case may be, we can always have that alert there, which will link directly to the page with more information. There's actually an alert on the bottom as well, which may have gotten closed by mistake. But on the bottom right-hand corner, there's an additional option for another alert for a similar function. Something that's a little bit new to our website as well is it has the option to translate, which is the gold square toward the middle of the right. It's also completely ADA compliant. If you look, just a quick scroll through the homepage, there's options here on how to quickly find some of the things that residents most look for, which is, there we go. And it's a smart toggle, so it finds what you need and you can go straight to that page. We're also going to have a top visited, so residents can always on the homepage find what they need access to most quickly. Sign up to our Village Connect. And then as the communications person, also very excited for the news to be in a much more visual way. You'll see the top stories, and this will be the same stories that are on the Village Connect each, it's stuck there, each time, each week. And then the same as our upcoming events, much more centralized, much more visual, very easy to find. There's a search here. And then if you go into, just as an example, I don't know if this, it's going slowly. This is kind of the look of what the inside of the pages will be like. And options on the left-hand side, and we'll have a lot more toggles and menus that make it easy to find things with dedicated search as well. It's just good. So that's basically the whole gist of it. It's, you know, very similar as far as content. It's cleaned up content from our old website, but it's going to house all the same information that we need to get out there, just in a much more friendly way. It's going to be a nice centralized spot with, trustworthy, relevant information from the village. And so that's, for us, obviously very important. And let me know if you have any questions. As the manager mentioned, we're going to launch it August 2nd. So we're very excited.
Jessica, I have a question.
Yes.
Briefly. Councilman London's consistent suggestion that we have access to the records constantly without going through all the expenses of searches in light of all these things being petitioned back and forth. That would overload this system if we have a bar there, that it would overload this page. That if you wanted to get, then did you understand my question?
Yes, I did. You're breaking up a little bit, but I understood you. I don't know if overload is the right way of, I know that we do have a large capacity on the back end of the website to put a lot of documents. We are currently looking at the best practices and best ways to add the possibility of adding maybe contracts to there. And over time, we will add as much as we can to the website.
Or could you at least put a note that if you want to do what London has been saying, go to something else?
As far as, I'm sorry, that part I didn't quite understand.
An informational, cross-reference to the means to access the kind of record keeping.
Public record.
Link.
There's a public
Link,
records.
That's correct. That's the right
Okay.
word. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a public records page that we've created, and it does have, you can write directly into the website, so that if it's one route that they can reach the clerk and other people in the office.
I understand, but I want to make a connection or a link between this document and that one, just by saying if you have in public records, can you go to click or link?
Let me answer that question. So Councilman Laredo, so right now this website does not have that ability as it's currently configured. However, we could, and we're asking for a quote and a capability of creating some sort of system that you can go through our web page into our systems, what Councilman London is asking for. So this website as it is currently set up, this in itself cannot do what Councilman London is asking for. However, it may be the interface that could allow us to do that.
Thank you.
And we should have an answer back to the council next council meeting on what that would work, how that would work.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other comments or questions?
It's a good look.
Thank you.
Yeah. Exciting.
Ed, London, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve, all I'm asking for is a link, even if it goes to another website they're going to create for the public records. So people come here and they want public records. Instead of going to the clerk, instead of doing anything else, they push this, takes it to another website, which will then have all the public records of the village. And talking about that, we've been approved a long time ago, what kind of progress, if any, or who is working on digitizing our public records onto a public site that anybody can get to. And I'm talking about all our public records, not just a few.
So for first question is, yes, we could use the website to have a button or a click to go to another system. Right now, we do not have that system. And that's what I've asked the contractor to give us a recommendation, number one, how that would work, and then how that would integrate with our other systems, and then obviously a range of estimate of cost. Secondly, on terms of digitizing our records, we're doing that as quickly as we can. Right now, we're focusing on financial records, and we're focusing on building and zoning records. Those are our two top priorities at this time.
And again, progress-wise, how long do you think? 6 months, 6 years, 6 days, 6 weeks before we're going to have something that the citizenry can go on and see what's happening in the village without having to go to the clerk to request public records?
I don't think we'll ever get to the point where there's not an opportunity a need to go back to the clerk, because things continue to move every single day. And usually what people are interested are what we're doing over the last 2 to 3 months. However, as we continue to keep records, I would suspect that over the next year, we can get the priority items up onto the website, digitized and accessible by the public.
You're saying the priority items. The priority items are different for everyone. So it's very difficult for us here as council members to decide what the priorities are. The idea is everything, not what we think is priority, should be available. And I can't understand why. And I asked you also to bring, when we get budgeting, bring back a cost so we can have that. So everybody can look at our public site and inquire on anything they want, not what we think is priority.
Mr. Manager, I just want to, I'm echoing, I'm very supportive of London's initiative for a while. And it's not a technical issue. I want to make sure you understand that as a policy, at least from this council member, perhaps the rest, this would be a disarming agreement, because it is clear over the last few weeks and before and other issues that the public records request has become an offensive tool of some, if I may call it that, because I think we need to speak clearly here. Either harassment or all of that. It has as a byproduct a cost and a distraction of the vital work of the clerk, but it is also would alleviate it being misused by everybody as a tool for political discourse. And that is why you should give this a little bit more priority than just a technical issue. I disagree with Ed that you can dump everything in. I think their priority is the timeline would help you because obviously these requests happen as controversies happen. But I just wanted to impress upon you that it's an important tool to bring harmony, I think, to our community. And I know that you'll report back, but I just wanted you to know that is also, it's not just a technical ease. So hopefully you can work with a consultant and make it happen.
And we're currently doing that. And you were breaking in a little bit then, Councilman Laredo. I think I captured what you said. What I'm first going to do, I'll answer Councilman London's question. We will be coming back to you on the next council meeting. I believe it's August 24th, with a range of estimate of the cost, also a range of estimate of timeline, and also what type of effort it would take from the village employees, or if we would have to outsource that effort to digitize all of our records. And I think what I understood you to say, Councilman Laredo, is this is a matter of policy, and that obviously we want to make this stuff available so that it doesn't overburden the clerk, but also does not become a political issue, but it makes information available readily at the fingertips.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve, if I could just add, I think that coming back with a full plan would be helpful, because I think the 7 of us need to take a vote to prioritize this if that's what we want to do. I think there's probably consensus for that, but to make it a priority, because it's clearly going to be a relatively expensive item. And I think that we need to make the decision formally and get estimates and make a decision to do whatever is necessary to implement it. But it should be, in my opinion, a vote of the 7 of us. Correct. And a clearly stated policy decision. So if we could get information before us that would help us to inform that decision, that would be helpful.
Now, I'll in fact do that. Now I'll lay out what the estimated cost is, whether in fact we can do it on our current existing systems, whether our systems actually allow it to fully go into it, and then also identify what, let's just say how much of the village manpowers would have to be put towards doing that, and then taking them away from doing other service delivery as well.
Just one point on this, and I apologize, I had to step out. The address, the website address misspells Key Biscayne. I don't think that's a big issue. I think it's on their end, but.
That's on there and internally. This will be the same website that we have once we transition it to make it live.
Understood.
It'll be keybiscayne.fl.gov.
Perfect.
But I caught that too.
What is one just an interest? What is uniquely KB? What is that going to be populated with?
We needed a catch-all, to be honest, with a couple different items that we felt were unique to KB. So a couple of us came up with this. It has the beach cam, it has our history, information about our community, and some of our partners.
Cool.
So.
Okay. Photos? Will there be photos? There could be.
There will be once we get some sort of a photo bank. We're very grateful to Kiko Ricote, who gave us a lot of the photos. And so we did give him credit on the photos that he's given us, but those wouldn't be for sharing so much.
It seems possible to have the Historical Society collection made available.
That would be great.
Good. Thank you.
Great idea.
Let's keep going.
And one of the things I do want to follow up, and Jessica's been working this very hard, and we also want to thank Katie Petros, who's been working with her over for quite a while. As she said at the beginning, a website is a living, breathing document. And if there are some recommendations on what to do, it just takes a click and we continue to make it better as time goes on. So I want to thank Jessica for all the hard work she's done in getting us to where we are today. And if it's okay with you, we are ready to kick off on August 2nd.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Great job.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. Next up is the update on beach access points for easements to our waterfront. Roland. And just to let you know, Rowan, we do have Ed Soto online as well, if you would like to ask additional questions of council.
Thank you, council. And thank you, Jessica, for all your hard work on that website. I especially like how the town hall on future of stormwater in Key Biscayne stands out. That's happening this Thursday at the community center, 6 o'clock. It stood out really nicely. Anyhow, getting back to the beach access easements, it's been a long and winding road, but Ed's been very helpful on this. We are making progress. Right now, it seems like we're furthest along with the middle path, which is at the sands, between the sands and the beach club, and the southern path, which is on the north side of Casa del Mar. The title searches have been completed for those. The legal descriptions have been completed for those. Ed is, I believe, negotiating with the Sands attorney on the language for the easement agreement. Similarly, he's been having back and forths with the attorney for Casa del Mar. So I think that those are making good progress. And my guess would be that maybe the Sands easement agreement would be the first one to come for consideration. In regards to the north path between Commodore Club South and the Island House, the title search was completed. KCI got some additional information from Ed that they needed in order to move forward with developing the legal description. They're in the process of checking some corners on some properties in order to finalize that legal description. Once they're done, they'll get that to Ed, and then Ed is going to fold it into the easement agreement and then pass it along to Commodore Club South. Ed, do you want to add anything to that? Did I miss anything in particular?
No, I think what you stated is accurate. One, I did want to clarify one point. We had obtained title commitments and title searches a while back. We are updating them to conform with the new legal descriptions that we've got. We had based it originally on the intended access points. Now the surveyor has provided us with the complete final legal descriptions for where we intend those access points to be. We've sent those back to the title company to do their final search. I don't anticipate that there will be any differences. But obviously we want to make sure that they give us that confirmation. And you're right. I think Sands is the first one that we'll have signed up. We're working on a couple of points. Again, working with the title company to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as why they've come to the conclusions that they've come to. But yeah, that one I anticipate being wrapped up in relatively short order.
Great. Good. Yeah, let's get these moving. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your work on this. I know it's been
a long and winding road.
I know. All right. Thank you, guys. Any questions from anybody? Or are we good? Okay. On to the next item.
Okay, I will stay up here for the next item, update on the sargassum removal plan and composting option and projections for the remainder of FY21. And for FY22. So this is not as happy a story as I'd like it to be. We did anticipate that this summer was going to be a heavy summer on seaweed based on all the information that we've been getting from the University of South Florida relative to sargassum in the Caribbean and what we might be seeing. And we're seeing it. I think everyone, has been party to the vast quantities of seaweed on the beach. So where we stand right now, the numbers that you have in your package are a little bit different because I got new updated and current numbers from Beach Raker today. And so in June, they actually loaded and hauled 93 trucks. And by the end of July, they're anticipating being at about 105 trucks. If we then take that and assume that, say, in August and September, they do 100 trucks in each of those months, that's essentially going to put us in a $445,000 deficit on what we budgeted for hauling seaweed. So it's a big number, but the sooner you, as a council, know of that, the more we can figure out what to do moving forward. We might get lucky and have less hauling to do in August and September. Mother Nature giveth and she taketh away. When the breezes are favorable for us, she taketh away. When they're not, she giveth and she giveth and she giveth. So maybe we'll get lucky and August might be a little bit lighter than June and July. and maybe September as well, and that would be great. As you noticed, the last couple of days and this past weekend were really, really nice, and Beachraker did a really good job catching up on the 2 days where they were basically shut down because of FWC and a turtle nest that wouldn't allow them to get their gear onto the beach. That hurt. There was a lot of accumulation during that 2-day period, and FWC fortunately recognized the bind that we were in and made some accommodations for them to be able to get on with their work. But nevertheless, the fact remains that we're in the hole pretty good on seaweed hauling, and I've been speaking with Benjamin, who's also been speaking with the manager to kind of figure out what we're going to do about that. As far as the composting is concerned, we did have a meeting with the Virginia Key Historic Beach Trust that seems amenable to working with us. They also had been brought to the table by Commissioner Regalado and her team, who also had an interest in seeing if they could fold in a vermicomposting element that's being undertaken in Davie as sort of an addition to the pilot of composting. So that's a work in progress. We had a meeting all together. We agreed that there's a way forward. I presented them a concept. The vermicomposting people presented them a concept. Guy Forshin and his team went up to Davie to see what that was all about. Now we're waiting on him to kind of give us his impression of what might be doable. And then we got to kind of cobble all of these things into one unified thing, and then pass it on to Commissioner Regalado's team and see then, what the next steps are for moving forward. I'd like it to be moving faster than it is, but we're pushing in hopes that we'll be able to get something in place sooner than later, and so that's kind of where we're at on that.
Okay. No, I know when we started out, you were the one who said it's going to take time to get. I was more of a Pollyanna on this one and figured, we're going to get this done in a month. This is going to be easy. Nothing's ever easy, but thank you for pushing on this, because this is something we need to get done. All right.
Question, Roland, when last we touched base on this and we talked about the looking at the budget going forward through the summer and the concerns that you had, there was talk about the need to take money that hadn't been spent but had been budgeted for other things in public works. And do you see us as far exceeding even that with your projections now?
So in adding 200,000 that to the original budget for the year of 489,000.
If I may, Roland, could we have this conversation separately with staff, and then we'll come back with you with a recommendation?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, sir. You're
Okay.
up next as well.
Yeah, the just keeps on going. So on this one, this is a update on village participation in Army Corps Shoreline Protection and Stabilization Program. This is a happier story than the seaweed. We're making good progress with the Corps. As you know, we're in their feasibility study. They're doing their beach FX modeling. They're at the point now that they're doing their benefit cost ratios. They're looking at tentatively selected projects. And they have a draft that's going to be available to the public, I think, in October. But the initial for sort of internal consumption is going to be in August. They're doing modeling of some tentatively TSPs, tentatively selected projects for Key Biscayne. Spencer Crowley, Jim Davenport, myself, Tim Blankenship from Moffitt and Nickel have been engaged with the Corps relative to what those projects might look like. Right now, the tentatively selected project that seems to be ranking the highest in their calculus is basically large beach nourishments on the order of 50,000 to 100,000 cubic yards, in combination with an erosional control structure, which would essentially be some type of seawall essentially embedded into the dune line, high enough that the dune line crest is elevated probably about 5 or 6 feet higher than it is now. And that internal wall essentially stands as sort of like a last line of defense should conditions be so intense that the dune gets washed away. They seem to be taking the offshore submerged structure off the table, even though they are considering them for up north, mainly because they haven't been able to quite figure out how to deal with the mitigation impacts relative to seagrasses. Now, we have a meeting with Durham to speak about mitigation. I believe that's on Thursday. And Blankenship, Crowley, and Davenport and myself, including the manager who knows a lot of people within the hierarchy of the Corps, haven't given up yet on consideration of the submerged offshore structure, because we do believe that it has merit. There is an appetite for it in other areas that clearly are not as impacted by deploying that type of a strategy. So we're going to keep after it, and we're trying to set up a meeting specific to Key Biscayne and the Corps to sort of further push that. Beach FX model is not technically the best model for defining the characteristics, the impacts, the effectiveness of a submerged offshore structure. So we haven't given up. We haven't given up on that. So we're still gonna keep pushing it. That's essentially the gist of it as to where we are. I think that the BCRs, the benefit cost ratios, are high enough that it's looking like we're in a good place. So moving forward into the future.
Excellent. Councilmember McCormick.
Thank you. So when you talk about them shying away from the idea of a submerged breakwater because of their concerns with seagrass, the question that comes to my mind is, since we started this process, I think many of us, starting with when Gary Gross first proposed putting this kind of dream team together, we have this vision of restoring the beach to like the 1980s big beach. And we all knew that that type of a project, one, was not something we could financially sustain on our own. And so this was part of our big hopes of getting included in the project. But also we knew that one of the biggest things we're up against was that grasses that marched in every time our beach receded. So are you noticing any kind of, like, is there a trade-off there? Like, if you fight for the breakwater, are we then losing ground on needing to mitigate against seagrass if we ever try to extend the beach or get them to extend the beach out further?
That's a hard question to answer. The deployment of a breakwater will require mitigation. Any potential impacts from expanding the beach to seagrass will require mitigation. We're trying to sort of sort this out with Durham this week to sort of get a clearer sense for, well, how much mitigation are they thinking might be required? What kind of mitigation? There's a lot of attention being placed on the water quality and health of Biscayne Bay. And, what can we do potentially for mitigation to meet the mitigation requirement that would be beneficial to the bay? So mitigation may be being on the backside of the island in terms of stormwater discharges and improving the water quality of the stormwater, and ergo improving the water quality of the receiving waters, which are Biscayne Bay. So we're having that discussion now. Tim
and
Blanken,
kind of taking their temperature of how much mitigation they'll tolerate.
Right, and what kind,
and what it will cost.
And yeah, well, we'll see what how far we get down the road in terms of getting an estimate of what it'll cost. I mean, the rule of thumb relative to seagrass mitigation is $800 to $1 million an acre. So we kind of know that sort of already. The question then becomes, well, can we do something a little bit more creative than just seagrass mitigation, always, all where, all the time? and those are discussions that we're having now. And Tim Blankenship from Moffitt and Nickel has been very helpful because he has so much history here relative to all of this. And so he's a critical part of this team moving forward with the Corps and with Durham and the state and whatnot.
Great.
But we're making progress, and it's looking better than worse.
That's wonderful news. Thank you.
That's good news.
Thank you.
Is our seagrass situation kind of anomalous because our wave action is so gentle?
It could be, it's shallow water. It extends pretty far out. The waves are not necessarily as vigorous and energetic as you might have further on up the coast. The sediments are not as dynamic down here as they are up there. So there's an opportunity for seagrasses to root and stay rooted. So yeah, to some extent it may be.
Maybe there's a hardship strategy because we're so anomalous.
Possibly.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Keep going.
I think that's all. Oh no, I got another one later on. Okay, thank you.
So next up, Mr. Mayor, is the discussion about where we're going to move the council into the future, what the next steps over the short term, and then also the long term. If I bring up Benjamin to have that conversation.
Perfect.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council, Benjamin Nussbaum, Chief Financial Officer. As the manager just suggested, we wanted to give you guys a sneak peek and some of the enhancements that we're going to bring to the council chamber, into the council chambers. As you'll notice tonight, we have the additional seats in for the guests. We'll obviously be monitoring the COVID cases to see if we maintain that, or obviously we might have to adapt responsively. In terms of technological advancements, we recently purchased a software that's going to have integration with our Zoom platform. We've heard you guys loud and clear. You're sick of using the headphones and the microphones. What the technology will allow us to do is eliminate these. It's going to eliminate the reverb that happens in the council chambers. I noticed 3 council members are participating remotely tonight. It's going to allow us to do that in the future without using the headsets. It will also allow for any guests, whether they be vendors or presenters, to be able to present remotely, thus potentially saving on travel costs in the future as well. In terms of a short-term timeline, we just recently made the purchase. These items take a little while to come in, but we're anticipating to have it fully received and installed in time for our September budget hearings. That's kind of our timeline. So we'll get to see how it works for them. Additionally, that's kind of the external features, which you guys will notice as part of the chambers. Additionally, internally, we're utilizing the Peak software, which is part of our Granicus platform. What this will allow our village staff to do is be more efficient in our agenda cycle. By limiting some of the extra paperwork, it's going to be an electronic system where the village staff will work with the attorneys in crafting the resolutions and ordinances with supporting documentation, the manager's memo, which ultimately will lead to a cleaner end product that you guys will be receiving as the final agenda booklet. It will be text recognizable if you want to search and query through the document, and also have bookmark tabs so you guys are able to jump to the agenda items quicker. So that's kind of our short-term process in terms of external and internal enhancements that we're going to make into the council chambers. Any questions?
Oh, good.
Sorry, hold on. Who's talking?
Luis.
Oh, Luis, sorry. You're breaking up.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment that you said, I'm not there today, obviously, the more seats. And this brings me around also to that presentation from the lady on the kids in the community center. I don't, and the mayor spoke about it at the beginning of the meeting. There's a lot of frustration, and I know particularly that woman and the 300 people she called about the kids in school. But if we have to reassert a policy, is we rather err on the side of health than any other pressure. Unfortunately, because in this great free society, we got a bunch of people who don't want to do the best thing they can do. We do have a serious research of the virus, which is still not clear how it's spreading. So it brings, to reinforce the mayor's point at the beginning, and, let's don't, feel pressure to let go of the brakes and let's err on the side of caution and health. And we can take the heat for that much better than if we make a mistake to accommodate short-term frustrations and find ourselves in a terrible human catastrophe. I just want you all to know, at least for me, that you should feel back, both Todd and you, if you restrain, as I think this is moving on a daily basis towards the bad side, unfortunately.
Ed, did you have a
Thank you.
I have a question. Luis brought it up. Steve, as far as masking and separation, what areas of the village or public property is masking and separation being enforced in?
At this point, we have no requirements. We still stand by my original policies that we strongly encourage masking and social distancing. However, we're not enforcing any masking requirements or distancing of people at this time. However, what I would like to say is we are beginning to track. There is an increase in testing throughout the village, which means there is either, number one, a greater concern, or there is an actual great increase of COVID. So we're tracking that through the fire department. Chief Lang is doing that for us. We also have a number of COVID vans coming in over the next few weeks although we have an 85% vaccine rate for 12 and above, we're still going to continue to offer it to our residents to get that number as high as we can. So to answer your question, we have no restrictions at this point. We will monitor it, and then obviously we will have a discussion with the council if we need to make a tough decision.
Mr. Manager, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ed, if you were done.
Capacity in the council chambers. I'm not there, so I can't tell by looking at it.
No. Well, I mean, we're allowing full capacity. We haven't blocked off any seats, but we're at pretty much standard for a council meeting. We're not.
No one who's wanted to come so far has not been able to come and have a seat.
That's correct.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager, to your point about the testing, do we have any way, now that the state has sort of shut down the reporting part of COVID for the Department of Health, do we have any way of monitoring, how many tests are given and what the results are of those tests in the village of Key Biscayne?
We do. And in fact, I had Dr. Samimi give me that report today, just an initial report over the last 2 weeks. We're going to actually do a trend line over the last 4 weeks.
What's the rolling for the last 2 weeks?
It goes up and down, but one thing we did recognize was July 7th with the big spike. We assume that's based on July 4th holiday. And then there appears to be spikes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays of both testing as well as percent positives.
And what is our positivity rate right now, approximately?
I don't have the numbers with me right now, but I can share those with the council tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's important because I think people need to understand, again, most of the vast majority, 85% of us over the age of 12 have been vaccinated, but we can still spread this. This Delta variant is very aggressive, and we don't want to be spreading it to people who can't, those who have pre-existing conditions or children who can't get vaccinated at this time. So I just want people to be aware. So I think and people want to know that information. They want to understand. So that'd be great. Thank you.
And then we're also doing the same thing with the staff as well. We did have a positive last week. I've told my directors that I need to know immediately. If we have one, we need to obviously send that person home and then continue to do tests around, because what we don't want to do is swing back to where we were 6 to 8 months ago.
Right. Agreed. All right. I'm sorry to segue out, but anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Nussbaum? Okay. Thank you, sir.
So for the next conversation, the building recertification, we actually have new documents. As you can imagine, some of these statistics change on a daily basis. So right now we have, Jocelyn's going to go ahead and hand them out to the council members. And then Peter is going to give them to the clerk so that she can email them out to the council members online. Have you received those, Jocelyn? Okay.
You emailed them to us? Okay. I thought Jocelyn, you got to say Joe. When you're talking about Jocelyn, you got to say Joe and you got to say Jocelyn. Otherwise, we're going to have chaos here.
You've got to get the French uniqueness in there.
Well, you didn't use the French uniqueness. That's the problem. It's not their uniqueness. It's your uniqueness that we need to worry about.
I'm working on it.
All right.
So if I would, I'd invite Director Osman to come up and to talk to us where we are in the building recertification. Again, what you see there is today's numbers. And again, as I mentioned before, they change every day because we see progress moving forward. And Jake will walk us through where we are in terms of what we're doing as a team, and then also where we are with the numbers with the spreadsheet that you have in front of you.
Thank you, Manager. Mayor, Council, I'm actually going to invite Building Official Rene Velasco to give a detailed briefing, and I'll be here to answer additional questions.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. So basically, we started a program where we are aggressively auditing all the records that we had here to get an accurate status of the recertification program. And we started reporting, we're reporting weekly to the manager's office, records and numbers, working also aggressively with the management companies to bring their processes to an end and meet the requirements of recertification. Also, we're working with Miami-Dade County to adjust to any updates they may have as we go along. New things come up, and we're keeping updated from them. We have a task force also that we are responding to all the concerns of the community and documenting them. And basically, the purpose is to encourage everyone to come quickly into the building compliance and have all the buildings certified.
Real quick, how long does it take to do a recertification? I'm sorry, am I unmuted? Okay, how long does it take to do a recertification generally on the average building on Key Biscayne?
Okay, so the purpose of the recertification is not to do all the work at the time of the 40th. So you have buildings that they act proactively and they work in the maintenance program. And by the time the 40th year comes up, they basically call an engineer. The engineer goes there. If there are a couple of little things that they find wrong, they give us a report saying that the building is safe with a couple of deficiencies. And within, the purpose is within 90 days to have that report. And if any time to do those repairs, 150 to do them. The problem that we have in many cases is that usually that doesn't happen. They are waiting until the 40th year to do these repairs once the engineer finds them and reports them. Then there is a process by which they have to go and come up with a bid. They have to come up with a cost to do those repairs. I imagine the associations have to get together with their members and come up with an assessment and agree to it. And then once they do that, they go put it out there for a bid and they go to a contractor. The contractor then has to come to us to pull a permit. They pull a permit for the repairs. And once we finish all the inspections and finalize the process, the engineer will come back again and do a second report without any deficiencies and provide it to us for electrical and structural integrity of the building. And at that point is when we issue the recertification. So to your answer is, it could be as quickly as 90 days if they have been proactive and working towards it, but it could be delayed for 1, 2, 3 years, 4 years, or even longer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Well, what I like to add, Mr. Mayor, first I want to thank Mr. Velasco and his team for an amazing work over the last 4 weeks. They've risen to the occasion, really grabbed a part of our records, making sure that they are up to date. They continue to audit them, obviously. But even more importantly is him reaching out to our community, asking property owners, asking property managers if they need any assistance and participating in helping them move forward in this. So I think this has been a great example of his team just supporting the community and back and forth. So I've seen an amazing back and forth between us and the community. What I gave you tonight, and I was just brought up to me, is this. Obviously, since this changes on a regular basis, this is not posted online for the public to see. We will make sure this spreadsheet is posted online. So this is a complete and total public record. What I like to explain so you understand how the spreadsheet works. Obviously, the top line is where we want to be. Out of 126 buildings that require recertifications, we have 42 that are currently fully compliant. There are 29 that are currently in the recertification process, 6 of which are due this year. So they are within their timeline. 16 are within a 3-year period of being due. So they are less than 3 years overdue, which is not out of the ordinary. However, there are 7 that are over 3 years. And obviously that's something that both Renee and I are looking at very closely. And we intend, after a few more conversations with the business or the property owners, to have a direct conversation with each one of those. The third category is the auditing records, and that is more of a paperwork process. And that's making sure that we have what they have and they have what we have to make sure that both of us are talking the same information. So again, there's 17 of those buildings, 1 of which is due this year, 6 that are working within 3 years, and then 8 of which that are 3 years overdue. So we continue to work with them. Best part is that there are no what we call stalemate, no response and no progress. Every single property owner has responded and is working with us very closely. But at the same time, we also want to recognize that we have 38 more buildings that will continue to move into this process. 1 more in 2022 and 37, which will follow over the subsequent years. So that is a spreadsheet. And as you see in front of you, I did that on purpose just to make sure the public was able to hear what we're saying. But again, as mentioned by Council Member McCormick, we will make sure this is posted online.
Councilmember McCormick and then Vice Mayor London.
Thank you for giving us the most up to date and also for committing to put it online. This is obviously one of the most important things we're talking about these days in our community. And I know there are so many people who are really, really concerned. And I think it's important that they know that we're on it and that the village staff is working so hard to make sure that all of our buildings are in compliance and that people are safe, because that is the most important thing. So thank you for that. And thank you for this work. It's just so important. And I know people are really scared. So thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Steve, or I don't know who I address this to, but this is a county regulation of 40 recertification. I don't believe we have it in our books for 40 recertification. And if we don't have it in our books, what leverage do we have of having any of these buildings comply, speed up, get it done? And if we don't have that, is it, and I guess this is a question for Chad, do we have to pass an ordinance that mimics or copies the county's regulation so that we do have leverage going forward?
Well, I'll start it off and then I'll turn it over to Renee for some of the specific details, and then we'll let Chad follow up with some of his legal opinion. But first, this is a ordinance from the county that actually directs not just county properties, but also all municipalities to follow their recertification process. So we fall under that ordinance. It's an umbrella ordinance for all municipalities. I'll let Renee kind of talk some of the details of it. Don't go into too much detail, but kind of tell how the ordinance works. And then Chad, if you want to add anything in at the end, please feel free to do that.
Renee, before you start speaking, what I know, Steve, that it's a county ordinance and encompasses all buildings within the county. My question is, what leverage do we have as a city, a village, to enforce that, since it's not on our books? And I guess that is a legal question.
Yeah, I can answer it. So we have the authority under the county code to enforce this provision. Miami-Dade County has taken authority over building countywide, but the building officials are responsible for following through and enforcing the unsafe structures provision that are in Chapter 8 of the county code.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else on this?
Yeah,
Councilmember Laredo.
Very briefly, I want to pick up on Allison's point. The public outreach and really maybe we can, words are important. This recertification update is very government speak. As you communicate and you change the words to plain English so people know this is about making sure our buildings are safe, which is what the panic we're living in right now. I'm talking about for external communication.
Is that a question?
No, it's a recommendation, which I think fails off Yeah, it's
Sure.
important to communicate with people, Mr. Manager, in the language they understand. And sometimes we default to what I call government speak or acronym. Recertification of update, I understand, but 99% of our citizens don't, and they have their mind on the safety of the building. So just spin the story. You need communications towards that, if you can.
I better understand what you're saying. And first and foremost, I'd like to say, Councilman, and also the full council, is that this ordinance is really just limited to basic structural and basic electrical items. It doesn't necessarily fully say that your building has gone through a complete safety structure. The village itself does not make that determination. We have an ordinance from the county that directs us to go out and work with the property owners who hire an engineer who then say the building is safe. So what we do is we recertify that they in fact have said it's safe. We can spin those words, but I want to make sure that we also understand that words are important as well, is that our job is to certify that property owners have done their job, hired an engineer, gone through the structural and electrical requirements. An engineer has signed off on that, and that document is telling that the building is safe. We certify that has been done.
Yeah. I don't think you got my message. It's just a suggestion that you get better bullet points. I understood you perfectly, but take it just as a recommendation for effective communication with just a sign with the change of the words.
Here may be an opportunity, for example, if there may be a default proposition that if you have a category called compliant and you're not in it, then you're not compliant. Maybe that intuition can be improved upon. For example, where you have recertification in progress, the idea that the engineering reports have already been obtained would be a helpful factoid, if that's true. And of course, if it's not true and you've got you're 3 years old or more, that'd be a problem.
So in those that are over 3, we have reports. They have provided that reports to us with deficiencies, and they're in the process of working to repair them. But they're not. We cannot recertify it yet because we don't have that final report from the engineer. So they're in process. There are engineers involved. Many of them are even doing work where the engineers go every week, 2 or 3 times to inspect the work to accomplish that report that says that they can be recertified. So
I understand. I think the point of this, and this is Councilmember Laredo's suggestion, if that status was more fully articulated in whatever the communication was, it would be more apparent to an uninformed reader that there were engineers engaged, there is a report that's being worked on, work is being done, and that's what in progress means.
Yeah. We'll work with the manager and try to define that
perhaps
more understandable.
So perhaps what you're saying, council member, is maybe a definition of each one of those below.
Something like that, yeah.
Clarified.
If I may add a comment, please. We have also developed a draft of FAQs. So the staff has prepared a sort of a document that will help sort of define terms related to this process. And so what we can do with that document is further define some of the terms that are in this report to add clarity to the process that we're doing. So hopefully we'll be able to, in the next few weeks, be able to share that document that's been prepared that is really written in layman's terms so that anybody, in the community or who may not be familiar with this process fully understands what these terms mean and what we're doing, within our community.
Good.
And I also...
Yeah, go ahead. No, I just had a quick question also is that, I know that we're working with each of these buildings because we want them to be compliant. I'm sure that they want to be compliant. But, there are managers that may drag this out way too long than it needs to be because they don't want to spend the money yet or whatever. Do they have a timeline that we're trying to hold them to make sure that they are progressing in a timely manner and not pushing this?
Depending on how many years they are behind, even though they're still working, that's a conversation that I will have with them first, and then we'll have it with the manager to basically explain to them the consequences of not within the time that we tell them they have to, the consequences of that can happen, reporting them to the Unsafe Structure Board at Miami-Dade County, and that then can possibly even evacuation of the building if they don't comply. So yeah, that's a conversation that
case by case.
Yeah, and right now we are in a process where we can work with them to accomplish the recertification before we get to that point.
Okay.
And to follow on, I think it's very important to recognize that Miami-Dade County has the most strict recertification process in the country, and really, if you look at the ordinance, and what it does is it creates a partnership between government and private ownership, and that's exactly what Renee and his team and I have done. Is we've actually gone out and we're working back and forth. So this is a process, and when we find that things are no longer moving, is when we begin to raise, an issue. And as I mentioned early on, the ones that I am eyeing very closely, because I think it's very important, are those that are in recertification process that are greater than 3 years. We currently have 7 of those in that category. Renee is in contact with them, if not on a daily basis, 2 or 3 times a week. And then he and I are going to have a conversation probably Friday. That's when we're going to meet again and decide whether we're going to meet with them next week if there's no progress. So this is a process. They put a process in place that I think really gives us an indication of who we need to talk to. And I think people can feel very comfortable that this process is moving. Property owners are taking this seriously. Engineers are on hand, and we are there ensuring that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One other thing I want to add is we close out this topic. As you can see there in your document, that we've had a number of media inquiries over the last few months or the last few weeks. Total of 17, and we've responded to all, which is good work by Jessica and her team. And then also a number of public records. We've had 10 total public records. Right now, there are still 2 that are open. We're working those public records requests, and we should have them out as soon as we are able to collect that information.
Right.
And that's something we track very closely on a daily basis. Okay. The next topic is the Rickenbacker Causeway. And I think you all have had a chance to read what I've written in there. And basically, that's an overall update of where we've been and where we're going. But what I want to do is talk about what's next. Early on, the mayor mentioned that there's a community meeting on August 4th. We will get out tomorrow very clearly where you can register for that meeting. Not only can you register to talk at that point, you can also register and actually put your question into the form when it pops up online, when you do your registration. So you can do a question at that time, and then you can also have a question when you speak. Of course, we, the village, will be present. We will make our comments well known. We will make sure all of our interests and all of our concerns are fully presented into the public record. Prior to August 4th, we will be meeting with Miami-Dade County Parks and Recreation Open Spaces this Friday. We'll be meeting with the director, her deputy director, as well as her 2 assistant directors. And so I feel very comfortable that they have brought us into the process. We are going to be part of the RFP team, and we're going to ask. We have not been yet approved, but this is going to be a strong ask on Friday to be a part of also the evaluation process during the RFP. We have heard that there are now 2 other proposers that are going to come forward with proposals on this RFP, so that's something we need to watch as well. And I think at that point, that gets you up to date. And if not, I like to open this up. I think this is a very important topic. So I think this is maybe an opportunity for us to have a larger conversation with the council.
Yeah. Councilmember Segarola.
I appreciate what the manager has done, but the problem with the current path that we're on, I believe, is just we're begging for scraps. Asking for a seat at the table is just not enough. What we need to be is sit at the head of the table. I believe there is a way to do that. As the manager just pointed out, apparently there are going to be 2 other bids that are going to be presented to Miami-Dade County. It is my understanding from previous discussions that we've had on this council on this issue is if we reach out to one of these other bids or another bid and create some form of partnership with them and present the bid to Miami-Dade County as a form of intra-government transfer, we jump the queue ahead of the people presenting the Plan Z bid. I think that's what we need to do. In that way, we would be in control of the causeway and no one else. And that's the only way to go forward. If we ask for a seat at the table, we're just asking for a seat to be outbid every single step of the way and outvoted for everything. And my proposal is we reach out to the other bids, have some sort of workshop over the next 30 days, really get working on this, and present a unified front to Miami-Dade County.
Yeah, I'd like to hear, I mean, do we know who the other bidders are for certain?
There is one group is called United Bridge Partners. And that's made up of a consortium of a number of groups, a number of companies. And the other one, from my understanding, is T.Y. Lin working with Boygus, who is the construction company that did the tunnel to Port Miami. So those are the 2 that we see forming at this time.
I'm sure one of those, or a third or fourth, would love the opportunity to jump the queue.
Well, have you reached out, Mr. Manager? Have you talked to them at all and had any conversations?
No, I've not. There is one lobbyist who is working for one of those companies who has contacted me, but I've not gone any further than just understanding who they are and what their team is made of.
I'm focused on something.
Ignacio, you're sure? Have you talked to any of them?
No, I have not spoken. I have not spoken
okay.
to.
You just sounded like you knew.
I have heard of discussions. I believe that
I think we're going to have more than 2 others, but
I don't know any of these 2 that are being put together. But discussions we've had here before and research that I've done when we've had these discussions is if we do present an intergovernment transfer to Miami-Dade County, we have the priority. And if we do that, then we basically have a partnership or a group that will not be working for us, but will be beholden to us, for lack of a better word, and they will be open to our concerns whenever there's an issue on the causeway. I think we need to reach out to these 2 groups and put the word out there. If any other group wants to present a bid, come talk to us. And I think we have our work cut out for us. We have basically 30 days to come up with this. And we really need to put the majority of our efforts into this in the next 30 days, because if not, the ship will have sailed and we will forever have to stay quiet and accept whatever gets rammed down our throat with the causeway.
Mayor, can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Laredo.
Yeah, every bone of my experience in other areas, including where I've held judicial ex parte positions, is that when everybody tells you hurry up, you got to hurry up, you always get into trouble. So I would urge attention and focus, but not to be rushed by external pressures. So all of a sudden this is going to happen in 30 days. And secondly, because it was mentioned before, I would caution again from my experience, my colleagues and myself, Garrett, to be very careful with lobbyists. They don't always identify themselves. And I don't want you to be falling into some unintentional minefields. And if you happen to meet with one, I would suggest you disclose it to the rest of us or to the manager or the clerk, because there's already a lot of lobbyists. It's a wonderful profession out there, and this is big money. Just trust me, been down this road before. Be careful as we move cautiously. I don't mean to slow it down. I'm just saying I worry about we don't get trapped into making a mistake.
Well, why don't we do this? I mean, I think we all want, I think we're all on the same side when it comes to the causeway. We want to ensure that whatever is done there, as I said before, provides us with complete and total access to our homes. We want to make sure that we are not impinged upon by any further development on Virginia Key. We want to make sure that Bearcut Bridge is redeveloped so that it is a long-standing bridge and not subject to potentially collapsing in a Category 2 storm. So, Mr. Manager, if you've got people you can reach out to perhaps get us some more information about other proposals, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, Chad, do you see anything wrong with that? I mean, if these people are willing to talk to us?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's yeah, and I mean
the only caveat is when you use the word us, this is circling back to probably my first meeting, that I inserted the words lobbyist in the disclosure when public people speak.
Right.
Because some people just don't identify themselves on this. I think at this stage it's better if they speak with the manager. But
well,
I mean,
we're free to meet with
anybody.
That's right.
Be very careful.
No, absolutely.
I'm giving you friendly advice. Just be careful. That's all.
Understood. I agree with you. Okay. I think, but anybody we talk to on either of these projects will assume they're lobbying us on their projects.
Okay.
Because it's their projects. Councilmember Kaplan?
Fausto mentioned two things that caught my attention. One is that the proposal from this consortium is undisclosed. And I think you mentioned, Fausto, that there was a county code that requires that to be the case. And also that kind of an intuition maybe that the county is not up to maintaining the causeway and the bridges. So starting with the motivation behind the county's surprisingly secretive action, relative to our normal experience with Miami-Dade County, has me on edge and causes me to think that it's absolutely right to constructively engage with the county. All the points that you've suggested, Mr. Manager, are correct. But at the same time, I'm inclined to be a little asymmetrical and try other strategies and gambits simultaneously because I just don't trust this. I think Ignacio is not wrong in observing that we'll be, begging for scraps along the way and potentially outvoted and outmaneuvered for larger strategies or other strategies.
Right. No, I think that's right. But remember, this public hearing we're having next week, or the public meeting, whatever you want to call it, is to influence their RFP, allegedly. They're seeking comments for the RFP purpose. So I think it's important to Councilmember Segarola's point, now is our time to get comments out there and to try and influence the RFP.
I agree with that.
And we can again, to your point, we can also go and look at other directions, but I think it's very important that people are taking part next week, next Tuesday, next Monday.
That is important. That is essential. So we must do that. But I think we should really be creative.
100%. No, I agree. So, Mr. Manager, if you would reach out and then let's have an update to council when you've got some information.
And we can do that on a regular basis because this is, as we mentioned, one of the most existential issues that the village faces. It is our in and out, our only in and out. One thing I'm concerned about, and I had the reason I brought those two names up today is because I actually just found out about them today. One of them did contact me directly. I'm a little concerned, and we have to figure out the right way to do this because the mayor's office, Commissioner Regalato's office, and Miami-Dade Parks has been very welcoming to us to be a part of what they're doing. And we have to tread that fine line between losing that trust if we step over somewhere else. So I think that's something we have to really seriously think about. This may be a topic because it is so serious. I hate to recommend another meeting. I apologize, Commissioner, Councilman Laredo, but this might raise to the level that we need to have another conversation. Obviously, it's called by the council.
You mean another meeting? Because you mentioned my name, Mr. Manager, you don't have to apologize to me. I meant that as a friendly advice to the elected officials and my colleagues and with a little bit of experience with lobbies. But are you suggesting concretely that we have a council meeting on this subject only?
I'll leave it up to you, but I agree
think that would be that would be the wise course of action.
Yes. That's why I'm surprised you're apologizing. I agree with you.
Mr. Manager, I was saying that
tongue in cheek. More information.
Yeah.
Mr.
Manager. Hold on.
Yeah, I would move it if you want to.
Well, I don't think we need to move. I mean, we could just direct. Councilmember Segurola, you had a comment?
Yes, I would just ask the manager if you could please reach out to these two groups and any other group that you learn of in the immediate future. Maybe report back to us within a week. And I definitely believe this requires and is worth another council meeting sometime in the very, very near future. When's the vote on, when is the next meeting on the bid for the county? September what?
I think it's August 15th, isn't it? The meeting on the
RFP.
The RFP doesn't have to come back. The RFP, let's be clear, the RFP does not have to come back to the county commission. The RFP, they authorized the RFP to go out without the county commission, but I think their deadline was the 15th.
Their timeline right now is targeting the 15th. I've never seen the county move that quickly on an RFP unless they've been doing this since March. So we'll find out more information from Parks and Recreations on Friday to truly understand their timeline.
Chad?
I was just going to say, the way this process works is that, and they threw in an extra wrinkle with the public meeting, which I think is on August 4th.
Right.
At that point, it's going to be noticed, I believe, after that public meeting, and there'll be time for people to prepare responses to the RFP. So I don't think it's as fast, but I think the manager can get that confirmation because, typically the way this process works is, you're going to go out and publicly notice this unsolicited bid, and then that's going to allow bidders to prepare a response because they haven't even seen the scope at this point. Because as Councilmember Kaplan said, it's exempt from public records and hasn't been released. So when the RFP comes out, that's going to tip off to everybody the scope of this project, and then it's going to allow time for people to respond. But I think that maybe the best approach is for the manager to confirm the process with the county with a timeline to give you guys a better idea.
Right.
And I would like to formally make a motion of intent to go ahead and have the manager at his judgment call a meeting of the full council on this issue only at the earliest possible, at the earliest most convenient time with all the facts.
And in addition
or should
to that,
we pick a date since we're all here?
Just pick a date.
Well, I can't give you a date now, but at least so that you can call us down, you want to pick a date, but I don't want.
Well, August 5th or 12th, right? Those are the next 2 days.
Has the information, then call us.
August 5th, I'm not here, so it'd have to be August 12th.
August 12th.
August 12th, I won't be here, but we can do August 10th or 11th.
I won't be here. I will not be there.
This is where it gets difficult.
I won't be here.
Tell you what, let's have the manager find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you find out and suggest some dates?
Right, exactly.
Right.
And
I agree.
And I would suggest that our strategy to go forward should be to create some sort of partnership with a group putting a bid so that we are.
Yeah, but my motion strictly is just to get him instructions to
we don't need a motion. We can just direct him to contact us when he has the information. Are you clear on that, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, perfect. All right.
By the way, one on the point that Steve raised about the trust dynamic.
Yeah.
Just a brief, maybe conversation on the point of communications with the district commissioner and the office of the mayor. I see no downside if you're going to talk to other people to communicate with the people of the county that you're talking to.
Absolutely. I don't think we're hiding any. It's public note. We're talking about reaching out to them now. So absolutely.
And I think it's conceivable that a little bit of a wild card might not be a bad thing.
No, and I agree, and I'm willing and to do that. I just want to weigh I'm very appreciative with the way the county has brought us in. And so I just want to make sure and feel the meeting, what happens on Friday, and to better understand what might be the best way to go forward. And then that's what I owe you. And I think that's what I hear. Let me collect that information. I'm also going to meet with the Plan Z folks on Friday as well.
Great.
So I'll have more information to bring back to the council.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next item.
Thank you.
Next item is septic to sewer. Director Alziman.
And council, we are making more progress with septic to sewer. Since the last reporting, we have 2 more houses connected, but one thing I'd like to note that you will see that there's a new number, 21, in progress of connecting. So we are comparing our records with Miami-Dade County, Durham, to find out the exact numbers. So there are 21 homes that actually in progress, whether they pull a permit, hire the contractor, about to hire a contractor, but I'm confident that they'll be connected the next couple of months. So that will bring the number to about 46 homes remaining. And Manager Williamson and myself had a meeting with Miami-Dade County Water Steward, new director. So we have their backing on public outreach campaign to reach out to remaining homes to help them connect, as well as talking with Durham to reinforce the existing enforcement.
Great. That's awesome. Keep at it. Let's keep going. This is good news.
Yes, great work by Director Osmond. Appreciate it. And it looks like WASD is behind us. And as you mentioned, Durham we're going to ask Durham to go ahead and just start doing the full fees as they were doing prior to COVID. So good news on that. What I'd like to do before I bring up Dr. Samimi on the kite surfing, I would like to just provide just some update that I got from the Parks Director on the community center before we close out. I know there was a concern earlier in the meeting. I just want to make sure to the public that the community center is open, except for Sunday. Camp is still going on, and obviously we're working around camp and where our campers are or aren't inside of our community center, we move those about as we have space. Nevertheless, I've mentioned a number of times to the 300 plus concerned citizens that they are welcome to come and talk to me and Director Hofferbert to find out a way that we can find time. It wasn't just 1 hour. We'll find the right time that works for them. And my offer is still open to have that conversation, and we hope they will take us up on that.
Steve, I have a question. Why can't we be open on Sunday?
Currently, it's a staffing issue.
Can't we hire some of these staffing companies, hire people for Sundays?
They're having equal problem hiring people as well. Right now, it's a staff. We're moving towards getting the staff to open, but we're not quite there at this point.
When do you expect we will be?
Director?
I might add, that's an unfair question. I mean, they're doing the best they can.
I will say, just knowing what's going on with staffing companies, it's tough right now. It's tough to get people.
I'm just saying, what are we doing? That's all.
Todd will give you an update of where we are and where we need to be in order to make that decision to move to Sunday. And he knows on a daily, if not a hourly basis, I'm asking him how we're opening the entire community center.
Sure.
I'm asking for volunteers.
So first of all, this week we did extend our hours this week. We opened at 6 a.m. And once we begin the school year, we expect to be back at full normal operating hours when we can rotate our staff that are doing camps back into their regular schedules. So we're about 3.5 weeks away from being fully back to normal. And really all that is an hour in the evening, a couple hours on Saturday, and yes, Sunday.
Todd, you listened to Nina talk about 40 people versus, I think she said 359 people using facilities. What is the validity to that? And if there is, what can we do about it?
I haven't heard from 300 people.
She said a petition signed by 350 people.
That would be correct. Yes, sir. I haven't had any complaints other than from Mrs. Wallen.
Also, the summer camp's been well received, and we have restricted access to the facility in years past when we have the summer camp to accommodate the camp. That's not just this year.
But is it disproportionate, the number of people who want to use it and the number of people who are using it for summer camp?
All I can say is that people usually aren't reluctant to call me or contact me if they have an issue. And I haven't spoken with anybody else with this issue, sir.
Thank you.
Todd, could I just ask, and I imagine you've probably considered this, but as you get additional staffing, can you try to prioritize Sunday rather than the extra hours on the other days? Because for people who don't, and I understand you're not getting other complaints, but for people who don't have their kids using the community center during camp, the weekends are the days that they could take their kids, and little kids look forward to doing things at the community center. So even if it's a limited schedule, if you could put in your matrix trying to prioritize a few hours on Sunday as opposed to an additional hour the other days before school starts, that might be a nice thing for people with little kids.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for that opportunity to just get that information out. And we are willing to work. And I know Todd and his team is working extremely hard so we can get the community center open to everybody. So the last item we have on the agenda is the implementation of the kite surfing program. Dr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Council. All right. Let's see. So based on the last council meeting that we had June 15th, that went so well. Everyone played nice, cordial. We have made some progress on a number of different items that we've put in place and tried to get done so that things would run a little bit more effectively at the kite launch. We did schedule a implementation meeting with folks from the Key Biscayne Water Sports Association. That was on, I believe, July 1st. We didn't really meet the objectives that we had initially set out for the meeting, so we're going to try and have another one on Friday, and hopefully it'll be a more productive meeting. But that aside, I've already been working with the FWC folks and the FDEP and engaging with the Army Corps of Engineers to figure out the path forward relative to demarcating the vessel exclusion zone. One of the big challenges in that is that a municipality can establish a vessel exclusion zone by ordinance. Fortunately, we jumped that hurdle a long time ago, back in, I believe, 93, when an ordinance was set up, established for that. So I can use that, and that brings us forward many steps towards getting that done. So that's a work in progress. It's may not necessarily be quick, but it's a work in progress. The kiteboarding channel, as you've seen, for ingress and egress from the launch area has been established. The sign between Crandon Beach Park and Key Biscayne has been reestablished with the kiteboarding rules posted on one side. The replacement signage for the posts that demarcate the launch area have been reordered to replace the ones that were lost on the posts. I think one has them, one doesn't. Also, in speaking with the manager and others, we decided that we were going to reduce the fee for registration because it seemed like $250 was fundamentally an obstacle towards people registering for the streamers. And since having done that, 10 people have registered in the past month. So that, I think, is progress. We're also in the process of budgeting for part-time beach ranger positions for fiscal year 22. And I've been kind of killing two birds with one stone, going out to the beach to check on what's going on with the refurbishment of the beach paths that were affected by the beach nourishment. And at the same time, on windy days, using that as an opportunity to see if there are any kiters out there. When I have noticed kiters out there, I've been speaking with them and letting them know that they really do need to come in and register. They haven't pushed back, and I'm suspecting that the more we keep pushing that, the more people will register. Let's see what else. The last thing is that the next meeting with the KBWA is scheduled for Friday, and I'm hoping that we'll have a fruitful meeting at that point. Manager, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
No other comments, no.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Laredo, go ahead.
Village. That was an excellent report, Doctor. But here's the bottom line. This is a problem that was about ready to explode. There was no communication, and we have come a long way from all of the concerns that both the kiters and the citizens that feel their safety threatened just in the last few months. So they are incredible communications at the highest level of this government, which is our village manager, and devoted a lot of time. Because that's what we need to have people understand. We will never ever have it satisfy everybody, because everybody has, 100%. But this is moving faster than I expected, in the right direction. And I would only ask those who copy me, who that where they have concerns, that maybe we can start using less adjectives, particularly when they're aggressive personal adjectives. It would make it a lot easier for all of us to move in the right direction. I mean, whether referring to staff or police, et cetera, it does not lend to the mature dialogue that we're having. So congratulations, Mr. Manager, because you devoted a lot of time to this. And this was nowhere, and now it's in the front. And we'll get it together. And I congratulate you and your staff for the work you've done so far.
Thank you, Councilmember. I appreciate it. And we've got a good staff working this. So thank you for your thoughts.
All right, next item.
It's me.
Jocelyn, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Mayor and council members, impact concurrency fee, Councilmember Laredo.
This will be brief, Mr. Mayor. You know that I've been for months advocating impact fees. I'm motivated by looking always for additional revenues for the village or its affiliates. In fact, you also know that in 2 cases before, I tried to approach this on a voluntary basis, and even ironically enough, was advocating that those contributions of voluntary contributions would be given to the Key Biscayne Foundation. But there was a show of people who benefit from some zoning changes and additions, or et cetera, to carry the burden of additional costs to the village. The old concept of all taxpayers pay for new taxpayers increase when there are more seats and more demand in the community center and other things. So that's the reason I've been talking about this. Second of all, I do not, as I put out on an email, want it to in any way impede the great work that Moss is doing with the task force. So I wanted to do what we call decouple it, so it doesn't stop that work that is doing very well. So very specifically, I would suggest, and I've consulted a lot with our city attorney, village attorney, that the best way to move forward is for the manager to get 3 quotes from a financial expert, because there's some legal requirements as to that impact, and come back to us with a recommendation. Let me just say that in most other cities, as I understand, in Miami-Dade County have this, and small cities like ours included. So I think it's worth exploring in a judicious way. It is a revenue enhancer, and it's a fair thing to do. So my proposal is, with your approval, to get those quotes and make this formal as moving forward. I don't know if Chad wants to weigh in, but in the interest of time, that's basically why I've been pushing this and why I want to make sure that it moves forward, or maybe not. Maybe we can do it later. But that to me seems to what have been suggested, the next step, that the manager look at the 3 proposals for financial experts who specialize in this kind of work.
Well, again, and I'll start this off. I think it's an interesting thing to explore. I agree with you. I think it's an opportunity. But I wouldn't want to necessarily hire somebody to come in until we've got a better understanding of what it is, what it does for us, what it does to development and everything else. So I would like to, I'd like to do more of that before we hire somebody to bring a program into us. Unless that's...
I'm not suggesting hire anybody. I suggested that they get quotes and come back with a recommendation, then we'll decide whether it's worth it or not. And okay. the only other caveat is I don't want it to get mixed up with the zoning.
No, and I understand that. I get that point. I understand that. Councilmember Kaplan, that's my only issue with it. I think it's definitely worth exploring. The question is getting the quotes, or do we delve in more and then do that? Councilmember Kaplan and then Councilmember McCormick.
Yeah, my instinct is that the word impact is important in the clause impact fee, and not all decisions create an impact. Some do, many do. I suppose it's arguable that in the age of resiliency planning that we're in now, the paradigm of impactfulness changes, and it may well be that by itself justifies this policy analysis. But it's both an economic analysis, which I think the manager would need to procure some advice on, but it's a policy analysis, and I'm happy to have it. I'm happy to engage in the discussion.
Absolutely. Councilmember McCormick, and then Vice Mayor.
Before I start anything, I just want to be clear on our terms. You're advocating that we hire a consultant.
No,
just kidding. I'm kidding.
You are bad. You were bad. You caught.
I noticed you omitted that word. They were a financial expert.
I used the word expert.
Yeah, I heard it. But words are important. I'm inclined to agree with what Frank said. I think this sounds very interesting. It's certainly something that I would like to explore. I don't know if we're ready to find out the financial part, but I don't know enough about it to know what we don't know. So if getting quotes from people includes the manager bringing back information of how other municipalities do this, or what's the latest understanding of what impact is and how we would want to develop our policy, I'm all for exploring this conversation. I just don't know exactly what the next steps are. And I'm happy to, give it to the manager to explore what the next steps are. And if they are get quotes, I'm fine with that. We're not talking about spending any money yet on a consultant. I just, I'd like to know more about what exactly we're talking about, but as like a 10,000 feet overview, it sounds very interesting.
Vice Mayor, and then Councilmember Moss.
I guess my first question is it fair? Or is this just a case of government extortion? Is this a case where we pass rules, we set requirements, and then we say, okay, maybe our rules were wrong, so we'll give you a variance or something else, but we're going to charge you for it because we made a mistake in the first place. Number two is impacts usually are new areas where, like out West Kendall, in that area, where all of a sudden you had nothing. You need firehouses, you need schools, recreation, everything else. Key Biscayne is pretty much all developed. We have a cap on number of people here. We have a cap on new buildings. So we really, we basically tear down one building, building another building. What is really the market for these impacts, and how do they really impact any of the things that we provide? And I think if you look at it, I know where Luis is trying to find additional revenue. By the same token, I don't think there's that many situations where it would apply. He brings up a case, last two cases, and he said we should extort money from those people because basically when they,
I never used the word extort.
Well, you didn't use extort, but it's the same thing. So basically, what happened was driven a plot line. All we did was straighten the plot line out.
But I don't allow you to put it in my mouth, Mr. London.
So in effect, we're going to charge them an impact, as he said, because they're going to make money out of this. But what we did was the right thing. Nothing. So if we do the right thing, are we supposed to make somebody pay for it just because they benefit? I don't think so.
Okay, well, that's a policy discussion. Councilmember Moss?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what I think everybody has said. I've always been in favor of doing impact fees, but at the same time, I agree with what Councilmember London brought up. Is the question is really what type of revenue is this really going to create? If we wanted to create any type of revenue, it could be very, very expensive for somebody building a new home or something like that to add a 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms. I don't know, but I think before we get into the policy, I think we may have to find out what the economics and the financial is, because I really couldn't make a decision unless I know that, hey, this is really not a moneymaker here. This is just something that's just make it very difficult for residents. So the thing is, if we make a decision that we're going to hire somebody to run these numbers, I think we have to be prepared that we may say, no, we don't want to do this, and that's it. But I think we would have to somehow get that information before we can make the policy decision.
But the information that you're talking about depends on a policy decision. If for example, using Ed's point a moment ago, if a single family house is replaced with a single family house, there's no impact.
Unless you do it by bedrooms, you can say, hey, there's more bedrooms.
Go from 3 to 8 bedrooms.
I think that if I can, I think that Frank is correct, and you guys are both correct. The way that impact fees work is you get a credit against the existing development, and then it's the additional expansion. You can do it by square feet, or you could do it by bedrooms. The models that have been most recent are by square footage, and people have to pay impact fees at the time of building permit. So the council won't even see you won't even see these new homes come through, because they're just going to be a lot of times single family homes, knocking down a Mackle, building a brand new home. And then when they come in for building permit, they'll pay their impact fees. And the policy decision is really twofold. It's the type of fee that you want to charge. For example, parks, fire, police, roads, that type of public facility, and as well as the amount of the fee, because the expert that would be retained would provide you with the highest legally defensible fee that you can charge to a person pulling a building permit for development.
Councilmember Segurola.
The way I see this, we would just be doubling up on the permit fees. That's how it would come down to. Not only would you have to pay a permit fee, but you'd then have to pay an impact fee on top of the permit fee. So I have to agree, we're double dipping, increasing the burden on the new homeowners just to generate new revenue. Again, if we had undeveloped areas of land in the village that would actually, construction would actually have an impact, then maybe, but I don't think this applies to us.
I think that it would be an additional fee. I think maybe the best example, Councilmember Segurola, would be that if a new home is being built, and those new residents that are going to come into Key Biscayne on a bigger house, and it necessitates a need for a new playground, for example, in the village green. The existing
that would involve the number of people living in the house.
Exactly. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That would involve counting the number of people living in the house. Has nothing to do with the building.
No. The way this works is based upon square footage. There is these experts develop a calculation that says based upon the increase in square footage generates X amount of additional people, which is going to cause additional demand on your park system, for example. And instead of the existing taxpayers paying for a new playground, The new taxpayers are paying their fair share. That's the whole point of impact fees.
All right, but using your example, if a retired couple moves into, buys a plot of land, tears it down, builds a bigger house because they can, and you're charging them an impact fee for a new playground, they're going to say, I'm not going to use the new playground. No children have been added to the village. What's the point of this? That's no different than the school impact fees that every single person pays now. I mean, in your example, correct. But now we're creating a new category of fee. We're not spreading around the fee that's already there. Now we're doubling up the layers.
Kaplan, Moss, Kaplan, then McCormick.
Well, you're not. The only difference I would say is that you, Ignacio, are not paying for their share of the additional playground. It's the new. And I understand your point that elderly couple may not, but that's the premise that they will have impacts for additional people. Maybe it's a grandchild or whatever.
Hold on. Councilmember Moss, then Councilmember Kaplan, then Councilmember McCormick.
But I think what Ignacio is getting to is that that's a policy that we can make a decision. We can do it by bedroom. We can do it by square footage. That's the policy that we make up, so it's closer to fair as possible. But impact fees are done all over the county. Every building we do, there's impact fees. I think we're one of the few people that don't have an impact fee. One of the questions I have for you, Chad, I'm not sure how this works because we always build something either different use or increasing. If somebody decreases, builds a smaller house on it, do we give credit back to them? How does that work?
No, they don't give a credit back. They don't give a credit back. Now, one thing that you do give back is if the government does not spend the money within a certain amount of time, the impact fee ordinances require that money to be refunded to the person who paid it.
Okay.
Has that ever happened?
Okay. Councilmember Kaplan?
I can see we're going to have a policy discussion. I'll save my remarks till we do.
Okay. Councilmember McCormick?
I can do the same.
I think this ought to come back as I think we need to have a policy.
What I suggested after a lot of thinking and consulting the lawyer, it's very narrow and it doesn't preclude a policy decision. It seems to be the next logical step to getting to a policy decision that is done all the time through an expert telling us the viability and the maximum under the law. It is like Moss has just reasserted, it's done in almost all of the municipality. My suggestion is very narrow. It does not mean that even I would say, no, that was what I thought was a good idea, and it's not, now that I look at the numbers, and not a good idea. I'm not married to it. But the suggestion very narrowly is to look at what it would cost us to get that first step. And then bring it back to us and saying, is that $5, $100?
No, I think it's absolutely fair. I think that was going to be, I mean, do we have consensus of council to get, without committing any money to,
right, absolutely.
Yes, it will likely inform our policy discussion. There'll be more information for us to have. May I suggest in the interim that before we have the discussion, that we each do as much research as you're inclined to do of what other municipalities do. And also, I think that I'm going to save my policy discussion until we have it. But what pops up in my mind are some very unique situations in Key Biscayne relative to the different ways that people live in homes. For Ignacio's example, I think of large waterfront homes that are vacant for large portions of the year, as opposed to other things that we may see that have really big impacts. So if we could start thinking and researching, what other people do and how they do it, so that we can really move forward on this when we next discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with some of the opposition to it, but I definitely think let's explore it. Let's talk it out. Okay, Mr. Manager, do you understand your marching orders?
I do, and one thing I would ask, and obviously we brought this up during the last budget discussion as an opportunity for additional revenues. I would like at this point to place my full effort on making sure we get the stormwater fees and building fees back up. If I would ask if it's okay to come back in October with this recommendation, if that would work for the council.
That's fine, because we're going to absolutely.
I think that's more important to focus on that.
As the maker of the motion, there's no
Oh yeah. All right. So you've got your marching orders. That's good.
Okay, we'll come back with October. With,
just want to get to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consensus of council to support resolution urging United States government to provide support to the Cuban people.
Right. So I don't think we're going to have any opposition to this. A number of other municipalities have offered their support and also asked. I think Councilmember Laredo met with some people who spoke with the president. It's so important, especially for this community with the great Cuban makeup that we have here in Key Biscayne, to state our support for the Cuban people who are struggling. After 62 years of oppression, they're struggling to push back and get some more freedoms from this totalitarian government. So I proposed. I gave you both two. I gave everybody two proposed resolutions. Just because I think it's important for us to make a statement that we support the efforts of the Cuban people, and we would like to see the U.S. government more strongly support their protests and their efforts to gain freedom. That's what I proposed.
In the interest of time, since I spent a lot of time on this with the White House, the one draft that you sent that is one page.
Yeah.
Is the better. There is a White House mantra that I learned very early in my life, which is you don't read any. If you can't get it in one page, nobody will read it.
Okay, then that's the one we'll go with.
The other one is quite lengthy, and
agreed.
This one pretty much. And the only other thing that I can talk to the village clerk later is that the list. You don't want to necessarily. You may want to send it to the municipalities only by virtue of courtesy. But what you need to do is fundamentally send a copy to the White House, the President, Secretary of State, National Security Council.
Okay.
And then without names.
No, understood.
And I'll do that with Jocelyn.
If you would do it that with Jocelyn.
I recommend a one pager.
I'm all for it. I agree. All right. So we'll do that.
So
that's
what we would
version
need to
2.
do is add, because this was not technically as part of the agenda as an action item, but you guys can take action on it as it is time sensitive. You'll need a roll call. And then I think Jocelyn should read in the title of the second one. And if she doesn't have it, I can read it. I have it up. But
I have it.
Okay.
A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, expressing Key Biscayne's support for the heroic resistance efforts against the Cuban regime and providing an effective date.
Perfect. I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, sorry. We have to roll call. Apologize.
Mayor
Would
Davey.
that include
Yes.
Mr. Attorney? The
friendly amendment.
Yeah, the cleanup that I can do the language.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. We'll work with you to make sure we have the proper officials to transmit the resolution.
Thank you.
Mayor Davey.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo.
Yes.
Vice Mayor London.
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick.
Yes.
Councilmember Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you all.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Hold on one second, because just one quick question on the scheduling at the end, Mayor.
Okay.
Because the September meetings, just to plant this out, are the key meetings for us during the year's budget, correct?
Correct.
Two things. First thing is I want to tell the manager to take, in light of the fact that Sunrise Park was not accepted, to take out the $125,000 that I had put in there in the budget under liquid analysis, which was going to be for the happy hour that we would have for the citizens.
Fine.
So you can take that out.
Thank you.
But on a serious note, if you can give us, Mr. Manager, to avoid the confusion from the last meeting, what is the procedure on budget in terms of presentations, particularly on timing? Because somebody alleges, well, there was 3 minutes, but I was supposed to do a presentation, and the presentation is not 3 minutes. I'm trying to preclude any further misunderstanding. So you just outlined, you got more than a month to do that.
Yeah.
So when we have those meetings that are open, the people come to speak, know what the rules are.
Absolutely.
We'll certainly do that. We'll have a drink in paradise, not sunrise, and I will have those.
That's Mr. Moss will pay out of his pocket now. Happy hour.
All right.
Nice meeting. Thank you.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.